This meeting to order. I would like to thank tonight's presenters and everyone joining us in person and via live stream. Thank you for being here. Janelle Harris will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All of our board members are in attendance. There are several addendum items, including awards and recognitions, communication report, written comment, human resources report, Idaho General Fund revenue report, food service free and reduced eligibility report, professional development report, Head Start program report, parent selection for the middle school, science textbook adoption committee, and district enrollment and attendance area update. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addenda. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passed. Next, Courtney will provide us with the January awards and recognitions.
Okay, good evening, Madam Chair, trustees, Dr. Howell, Ms. Clark, and all of our guests this evening. Thank you so much for being here. And we have a full house tonight. We have not sent anybody back to the overload room, but we do have people all the way into the corner. So I will remind you, it was really hard to hear back there, so please speak into your microphone so all of our guests can hear you this evening. That would be awesome, as well as our guests joining us online. So tonight we will recognize several individuals who, through their actions, support and embody our district's mission to think more, learn more, and be more together. First up, we have our January Learner of the Month, or our CAKE Awards for January 2025. This is our first of the new year. So School District 25 believes a safe, supportive, caring, and respectful environment is critical to student learning. The School District 25 Education Foundation, in partnership with our local Johnson Family McDonald's, supports the Learner of the Month Award to recognize one elementary learner and one secondary learner from our district from October through May. The CAKE Award celebrates positive character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement toward others. Nominations for the CAKE Award are submitted by a teacher who has observed the nominee's behavior and are approved by the school's principal. CAKE Award recipients receive recognition here tonight at the monthly board meeting, as well as a gift card for the recipient and their teacher and a $50 donation to purchase books in the recipient's name. And both of those are, again, courtesy of our Johnson Family McDonald's. So first up, I have our Elementary School Learner of the Month, Mr. Devin Blakesley, and his teacher, Mrs. Whitney Curzon. If you will join me right up here, Devin, right here, and you can just stand kind of toward the edge of the podium, right there, that would be awesome. So Mrs. Curzon nominated Devin, who is a 5th grade learner at Indian Hills Elementary School. And Ms. Curzon wrote in her nomination letter, "I would like to recognize Devin for being an outstanding student and role model in our school. Devin exemplifies qualities that make him a respected, compassionate, and influential presence both in the classroom and on the playground. He is a great example of a kind cougar. Go Cougars, right? Devin is a kind and thoughtful young man who consistently demonstrates a willingness to lend a helping hand. He possesses a unique ability to lead quietly and humbly, making him a figure that others naturally gravitate toward. He is patient, understanding, and inclusive, always making sure that every student feels welcome and valued, particularly during recess and group activities. His flexibility and versatility allow him to adapt to different situations, and he seamlessly works with students of all personalities and backgrounds. One of Devin's standout qualities is his leadership on the playground. We recently got a Gaga ball pit, and I'm not sure what that is, so you guys will have to show us how that works. And although Devin is competitive, he encourages others to do their best. He not only includes everyone in games and activities, but also helps solve conflicts that arise, always ensuring a fair and respectful resolution. His peers look to him for guidance, and he sets a positive example by leading with empathy and integrity. He has a unique gift for fostering an environment where every child feels that they belong. Devin Blakesley is a student who consistently embodies the values we strive to instill in our Indian Hills Cougar community, His quiet yet impactful leadership and inclusive spirit make him an ideal candidate for this recognition. Devin has positively impacted his peers and teachers alike, and I'm honored to nominate him for this award. So, wow, that was a wonderful nomination letter. Devin, congratulations, and thank you for being such a wonderful role model in our district. And thank you so much for the nomination. And if you'll say hello to our board members, you'll shake their hands. And you too. They want to say hi to you as well. Thank you so much for the nomination.
Thanks for that nomination.
Thank you, that was really sweet. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. And next up, we have our secondary school learner of the month. Will Mr. Madden Coons join me at the podium along with Miss Jody Diaz? So Madden is a 6th grade learner at Alameda Middle School, and he was nominated by his teacher, Mrs. Diaz. And in her nomination letter, Mrs. Diaz wrote, "I knew I wanted to nominate Madden for this award the very first time I met him. I first noticed Madden during the assembly on the first day of school. Every boy seemed to want to sit by him. There was a boy with special needs who Madden already knew from elementary school. Madden sat right by him and all the other boys followed. Madden includes everyone. Because he is a natural leader, when he does it, so does everyone else. I have watched Madden and his friends include this boy every day since the first day of school in everything they do. Madden is caring, inclusive, empathetic, and compassionate. As an adult, I strive to be these things, but it takes effort. For Madden, it comes naturally as a part of his character. Madden has no idea the lasting impact he has had on the people around him, specifically his friends from elementary school, but it warms my heart, and I look forward to seeing the amazing things he will do throughout middle school and after." Wow, Madden, thank you so much for being a positive role model in your school community. It's so wonderful.
Appreciate you.
Good job, Madden.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. That was very sweet. Thanks for being so
Next up, we have our Employee of the Month, or PIES Award, which recognizes our employees who positively influence educational success. This award is for employees who go above and beyond in that effort. And our PIES Award recipient receives a $50 gift card from Lookout Credit Union for their effort, and Lookout is our educational partner for this award. And then the nominator also gets a $20 gift card courtesy of Lookout. So will Miss Becky Corrington and Cynthia Lund, principal at Syringa, join me at the podium? Mrs. Corrington. Mrs. Corrington is our January PIES Award winner, and she is a teacher at 2nd grade at Syringa Elementary School. In her nomination letter, Mrs. Lund wrote, "Becky consistently goes above and beyond in her efforts to ensure the educational success of all her learners. She skillfully juggles the demands of a busy classroom while also mentoring a student teacher, demonstrating her ability to manage multiple responsibilities with poise and professionalism. Her organizational skills and innate ability to prioritize tasks allow her to create a supportive and engaging learning environment for all of her students. One of the most commendable aspects of Becky's work this year is her commitment to meeting the diverse needs of her learners. Notably, she has taken significant strides to support a student who is hearing impaired. She has not only ensured that the student receives a high-quality education, but has also actively engaged with the student's family to facilitate effective communication and support. Becky has implemented tailored strategies and resources to enhance the learning experience for the student, demonstrating her keen understanding of inclusive education practices. Her ability to foster a sense of belonging and empowerment among her learners is truly remarkable. Becky embodies the principles of empathy and advocacy, ensuring that every student feels valued and included, regardless of their unique challenges. This commitment to her students' well-being and success sets her apart as an educator who genuinely cares about the impact of her teaching." So thank you so much, and you get this $50 gift card courtesy of Lookout, 2 certificates. This is for you, and congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you for the nomination. And if you'll say hello to our board members as well.
Thank you. Good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for that next nomination.
Thank you.
And thank you for the just wonderful nomination letters. So I have one more recognition. One more recognition for you this evening. I would like to invite Ms. Meg Fleshman from Century High School up to the podium to join me. So you may all have already seen this in the newspaper, but this is pretty outstanding. So Ms. Fleshman was recently awarded the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. And that is it just PAEMST, or is there a word for it? Okay. So Mrs. Fleshman, who teaches and coaches at Century High School, has been selected to receive a Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. The PAEMST program, administered by the National Science Foundation, or NSF, on behalf of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, recognizes outstanding teachers for their contributions to the teaching and learning of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Each awardee will receive a certificate signed by President Biden and a $10,000 award from NSF. Awardees will travel to Washington, D.C. for an awards ceremony at a future date. The application process included documenting evidence for 5 teaching dimensions: mastery of content, use of effective instructional methods and strategies to support student learning, effective use of student assessment to evaluate, monitor, and improve student learning, reflective practice and lifelong learning to improve teaching and student learning, and leadership in education inside and outside of the classroom. So the bar is really high on this award, and she meets it in every way. When invited to be recognized before the board at tonight's meeting, Meg was adamant about sharing this recognition with the many who have helped her along the way. And those names she listed include Cheryl Brockett, Cassie Atwood, Jamie Berry, Dr. Kurt Anderson, Chuck Orr, and Kathy Luris, who all helped in areas from writing letters of recommendation to providing ideas and support of the journey. Meg wrote, "I think that the 25 years of SD25 professional development, district activities, and committee work in the district was a big part of the award, and that doesn't happen just with me. That's the involvement and efforts of a lot of people, and that just is a testament to who Meg is. Her excellence in teaching and humble approach to receiving this prestigious national award embody the district's motto to think more, learn more, and be more together, and we just want to honor and congratulate you here tonight, so thank you." Meg, I have this for you as well. You're very welcome. And that concludes our awards and recognitions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public and written comment on topics, well, no, it's just public comment. It's okay. As per board policy, it's limited to 45 minutes, the total amount of time. And so we will begin with Stephanie. We have student reports first.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we will start with Century High School for our student reports.
Good evening. I'm excited to share some of our school's accomplishments and events with you. Starting off, our boys basketball team, both JV and varsity, won their brackets at the Southeast Idaho Holiday Shootout, bringing home championship titles. We had several players recognized as Athlete of the Week from our girls basketball team, and our wrestling team recently held their alumni and senior night and placed 4th overall at their Madison tournament. We've had several nights held for our seniors, including FAFSA and scholarship nights. Midterms are also underway. We are incredibly proud of Mrs. Fleischman for her presidential award. She's one of 336 teachers in the entire nation to be chosen, so we couldn't be prouder of her. Along with this, we sent out a group of students from Student Council to Irving Middle School to educate the students in health and science classes on the dangers of fentanyl, and we hope to do this next trimester to new classes as well. Our drama department is preparing for their upcoming musical, and we recently held an elective fair to help students explore their options for electives and clubs they may be interested in. Our school service efforts have been outstanding. During our annual Hunger Games drive, we collected 4,448 canned and food box items for our Century Pantry. We raised $2,713.84 through Coin Wars and gathered 972 coats for students in our own school and district who needed them this winter. Additionally, we sponsored 28 students for Christmas, supplying hundreds of gifts for them. Lastly, we held our winter sports assembly to showcase our winter athletes and celebrate their dedication and hard work. Thank you.
What's the musical?
What?
What's the musical you're putting on?
Oh, I'm not sure. They
Oh.
just said they're.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll receive Highlands updates.
My name is Breland Rebake. I'm the Highland High School representative. So just our updates. Last Friday was the end of our midterm, so we're officially halfway through the second trimester and halfway through the school year. We're preparing for academic planning for the 2025-26 school year. As part of that preparation, our elective and activities fair is this Monday, January 27th at 6 p.m. We want to invite all incoming freshmen and current Highland students and their parents to come see what classes are offered at Highland for next school year. We're in full swing of our winter activities with an event almost every night of the week. This week, Highland Varsity Cheer is headed to Las Vegas for a national cheer competition. And finally, student government has started our annual Make-A-Wish fundraiser. This year, we are raising money for a local 17-year-old girl who has a brain tumor which has made her senior year more difficult. Her wish is to go to Hawaii with her family and her sister, who's her best friend. Our goal is to raise $10,000 to help grant her wish. We will be organizing several fundraisers and events to reach our goal, and we would appreciate any and all support from the community. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Pocatello High School student representative report.
Hi, my name is Katya, and I'm excited to share what we've done this year. On the 18th of January, Highland sponsored the Cupid's cheer competition at Pocatello High School, where our varsity team placed second in co-ed show, sideline, and pom. JB placed first in sideline and pom, and the Pokey team was awarded the 5A Spirit of Cupids. On the 17th and 18th, our dance team competed at the Idaho Summit Dance Competition at Mountain View High School, where they got 4th in hip-hop and 5th in dance. Lately, we have also been able to get our Make-A-Wish kid, who has been dealing with leukemia since he was born and has an abnormality in his brain that was recently discovered. He wants to go meet Lionel Messi, which we have already started fundraising by doing a Teacher Soft Talent show, where we were able to raise money to help him get started to go meet Lionel Messi. We also have a Future Freshman Night coming up on January 29th, where we will be showing all of the clubs and all of the classes that students can take at both Pocatello High School and at PV Tech. And that's all that we've done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Courtney Fisher will present our Communications and Community Relations report.
Okay, we have a full agenda and a full house, so I'm going to keep this really brief. Your communications report is in the addendum, and most of it is self-explanatory. I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things. First, on page 3, our top performing posts, interestingly enough, one of them was from yesterday. Once it gets really cold, people start paying attention to social media and finding out if we're having school or not. So we did just a stay warm tip last night, which was our top post in the last 28 days with 17,902 views. And then the second top view was from January 15th, the public hearing. We did have a little bit of a snafu. I'm not sure if all of you were aware of that, but we didn't have audio on the YouTube stream, and so we moved to a Facebook Live situation, which it wasn't perfect, but it ended up working, and we had 11,242 views on that. The average view was not as impressive as that number, but still got quite a lot of attention. And then on page 4, I have a couple of save the dates for you that I want to draw your attention to. On February 7th, local law enforcement and first responders will be having a training exercise at Century High School. That is a non-instructional day, so no learners will be at Century High School. And that's February 7th, 2025. No school for learners, but staff, Century High School staff and district admin will be invited to participate in that on a voluntary basis, and it will be a drill that they'll be using the whole school to do various scenarios for school safety. So I wanted to make you aware of that. And then on May 1st, we have rescheduled that grand opening celebration for PV Tech, our Portland Valley Technical Education and Career Campus. And so I'm getting those invitations revised and ready to print. So we'll plan on getting those out before we leave for spring break so that we can be in plenty of time to get the word out about. Had lots of people ask since we rescheduled that event from the fall. I've also got, as I do include in every communications report on a monthly basis, the headlines of interest. And then I also wanted you to have at your fingertips just an overview of all the media that has been done on the attendance enrollment areas. And so all of those links are in one place for you. They're also included in the regular format, but I just wanted to pull everything from the press release and show what we've done on a district level and then the media outlets and those stories so that you could see how extensive this topic has been covered in one place. And that is it for my media report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. We'll now have the public comment request to appear. We'll start with Stephanie Powers. Before we start this, I'll just read the protocols for this. It is keep your comments civil, refrain from loud outbursts. Per board policy, public comment is limited to a total of 45 minutes from the beginning to the end. And you will have 3 minutes. There is 1 or 2 people that represent a group that have requested previously to have 10 minutes. So we'll start with Stephanie.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I would like to begin by saying that you have a very difficult decision ahead of you this evening. Your decision will affect hundreds of students, families, and staff members. You must weigh your decision very carefully as you have been elected to represent all of your constituents. Unfortunately, many of your constituents have lost trust in you due to some of the difficult decisions you have made in the past. The decision to close an elementary school has just magnified those feelings. If you say this is a financial matter that needs to be addressed to balance the budget, then it must just be a financial matter, and the numbers speak for themselves, with $2.5 million difference. You say that you want what is best for students, but then pit one school against another and diminish the success of one school over the other. Every single person I have talked to in this community has told me they do not want any elementary schools closed, while the district committee would like you to go with option 1. My concern is you won't listen to the community nor the recommendation made by the district committee, who spent hours and hours looking at data and information. These contradictions fuel the distrust the community finds in you. This entire situation has placed a huge weight on the shoulders of every student, parent, teacher, principal, and staff member at both Tendoy and Washington. We carried that burden all through the holidays. We carried it day in and day out for months while inconsistent information was presented and misinformation was spread on social media. But while we carried it, we went to work. Teachers taught, children learned, parents helped raise awareness. We never gave up because we truly care about our school community. I want you to know that throughout meetings and public forums, every point that has been made in support of Washington also applies to Tendoy. You should believe that those same points apply to all schools in our district. In addition to those points, I'd like to point out that Tendoy is ADA compliant and there are new townhomes being built in Tendoy's boundaries. I do not believe that closing schools is the right thing to do, as it is not addressing the underlying issue. You and the district administration need to work on finding out why families are choosing to leave for charter schools and private schools instead of finding problems in our schools to justify their closure. You should be solving the real problems with enrollment and working at restoring the community's faith in your loyalty and devotion to our district and its future. I stand before you as a representative of Tendoy's 16 teachers, 10 paras, 5 support staff, 4 office staff, and most importantly, our 200 neighborhood kids and 52 transfer students. They are counting on me to fight for their school. They are relying on me and all the other people speaking in support of Tendoy to teach them the power of free speech and to remind them that we love them. Thank you.
Next is Tristan Borquin.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Tristan Borquin, and I'm a proud parent of a Tendoy student. This is my son's 4th year at Tendoy, and this school is more than just a building to us. It's a thriving community hub where children feel safe, nurtured, and supported. The teachers and staff go above and beyond to create a welcoming and inclusive environment that fosters academic success and emotional well-being. I understand the budget challenges you face, but I urge you to look at alternative solutions that do not sacrifice our children's education and emotional well-being. Please remember that schools like Tendoy are investments in our future, and the cost of losing such a vital institution far outweighs the short-term financial savings. Losing a neighborhood elementary school can have many disadvantages that affect students, families, and the broader community. For students and families, it can result in a disruption of education, cause overcrowded classrooms, and a loss of personalized relationships. It will cause longer commutes, which will result in students facing longer bus rides or walks, reducing time available for extracurricular activities, homework, and family. 76% of Tendoy students walk or self-transport. This is the highest percentage district-wide. For the broader community, it can cause decreased property values, where neighborhood schools are often a selling point for home buyers. While I implore you to look at alternatives to closing either school, if you choose to close Tendoy over Washington, you will be held accountable to the taxpayers of the Pocatello-Chubbuck School District. If the need exists to close a school due to financial burden, then the decision should be based on facts and not feelings. In the financial spreadsheets you've been given, there is a $2.5 million discrepancy in the projected 5-year upgrade costs between Tendoy and Washington. By keeping Washington open, taxpayers will bear the burden of the additional upgrade costs. This may lead to higher taxes or further cuts in other areas of the school district budget. This will also lead to decreased investment of student resources. Money spent on maintaining an older facility could otherwise be used for academic programs, technology upgrades, or extracurricular activities that directly benefit students. Taxpayers may view the decision to keep Washington open as fiscally irresponsible, especially when the cost disparity is well documented and significant. A decision that appears to favor one community over another, despite clear financial advantages to the alternative, could lead to a frustration and a loss of trust in the school board's decision-making process. In closing, I urge the board to consider the long-term consequences of closing Tendoy. This school is not just a place of learning, but a vital part of our community. Closing it would disrupt families, strain other schools, and diminish the quality of education. Furthermore, choosing to keep Washington open with $2.5 million in additional upgrade costs creates an unnecessary financial burden on taxpayers and diverts valuable resources from programs that benefit students. I ask you to make a decision based on facts that reflect the best interests of our children, our community, and our taxpayers. Keep Tendoy Elementary open and invest in the future of our district. Thank you.
Next person is Riley McCready.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of you today. My name is Riley McCready, a second grade teacher at Tendoy Elementary. I have lived in Pocatello for 18 years, having completed my elementary and secondary education at Jefferson Elementary, Irving Middle School, and Pocatello High School. After graduating from Boise State University, I had the opportunity to return to Pocatello and begin my teaching career. I have had the privilege of teaching at Tendoy for the last 4 years, where I've created a space of learning, exploring, and growing for myself and my second grade students. Tonight, we gather as educators, parents, and members of a tight-knit community who care deeply about our school, our students, and our futures. We are here to advocate not just for a building, but for a place that embodies stability, opportunity, and connection for so many. Tendoy Elementary is more than just an educational institution. It is the heart of our neighborhood. It is a place where 76% of our learners walk or self-transport to school, the highest percentage in the district. For our students, Tendoy is not just a place to learn, it's their home away from home. A multitude of students will be displaced if this school closes, including the 52 students who specifically chose to transfer to Tendoy this year over their home schools. This speaks volumes about what our school represents, a safe, welcoming environment where learners feel heard, seen, and cared for. Closing Tendoy would mean losing a vital part of our community. It would dismantle a support system that so many of our families rely on, causing a profound disruption to daily routines and uprooting learners from the stability they need to thrive. This decision would be more than a logistical change. It would have far-reaching consequences for our families, our staff, and our neighborhood. As educators, we know that positive relationships make a profound impact on learners. Children learn best from adults they like and trust. At Tendoy, we have built a culture of care and connection that fosters academic and personal growth. Our staff is deeply invested in the success of our students. We are not just educators, but mentors, advocates, and champions for every child who walks through our doors. This level of dedication cannot be easily replicated or replaced. Tendoy is as successful as any other school in the district, something that has not been highlighted or recognized, especially in the January 17th special school board meeting. We have a dedicated team of educators who commit not only their time, but also their hearts and energy to the success of every student. Good teachers can thrive anywhere, but excellent teachers thrive in a school with a principal and staff that supports them, families that trust and collaborate with them, and a district that has their back. This is what we have built at Tendoy, and it's worth preserving. The decision to close a school should be based on logical and factual information that benefits all learners, families, staff, and the community. This is an opportunity for you, the school board, to show that it values what truly matters, the well-being of its students and the strength of its communities. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next person, and she will be representing all of the Tendoy staff, is Jody Newman. So you will have 10 minutes to represent the whole staff.
I need these so I can see. Sorry. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of keeping Tendoy open. My name is Jody Newman. I have worked in the district for about 19 years, 16 at Tendoy as a para in the special education classroom. I have supported learners from a full range of economic backgrounds. When I walked into that brick building the first time, I was impressed. The staff was amazing. The classroom sizes were smaller than my kids at Tyhee had. Sorry. I appreciated the small school feel. So for 16 years, I have come back. I came back even when the district needed to cut the budget, so they cut our salaries. I came back even when the district office would come to Tendoy various times over the years and tell us, no, that learner should stay at Tendoy. They don't belong at Turning Point or in an ERR room. Then tell us there was no room anyways. But they did belong there, and eventually those learners would go to a place that could give them the support they needed. I would be angry and a bit bitter, but for the last 16 years I have come back because Tendoy means the world to me. We are a family. I entered that brick building and said things I never thought I would say. Please don't lick the school. Please don't lick the big toy. I have done things I never thought I would do. Over the years, I have attended funerals for a learner's parent. No one made me, but I wanted that learner to see my face and know I was there. On probably the worst day of their life. I was there for them, and I loved them. That brick building I have entered so many times over the last 16 years. That building is a school because of the love inside it. Tendoy Elementary. The staff and students have love for each other. Our school is a bit smaller than some, but it's so beneficial for our learners. They have bonds with our teachers, staff, lunch ladies, even our janitor. They build relationships with each other also that hopefully will last a lifetime. In a time when mental health is a big concern, Idaho has the 6th highest suicide rate in the nation. These learners have a bond to a wide base of people that they can reach out to if they ever need to. That love that makes that brick building Tendoy Elementary has made families drive their learners to our school. 52 students this year alone. We even had a learner that lived in Lincoln, or Ingham, whose guardian would drive to and from Ingham every day so they could attend Tendoy. Tendoy also has a wonderful preschool program located there for the last 4 years, hopefully for many years to come. This program fills a gap for families that might not be able to afford to pay for preschool for their learner. This preschool program gives them a jump start when they start kindergarten. Tendoy Elementary teaches more than the subjects all students learn. We have taught manners, to say sorry, empathy, honesty, to say thank you, to use their words. We have also taught acceptance. We had a learner that spent kindergarten to 5th grade that was in a wheelchair. Our learners were kind and accepting. They all play with kids that look different from them, even some that act differently than they do. Tendoy has given learners the opportunity to interact with those with different abilities, a skill that we use over their lifetime. Unfortunately, it looks like closing Washington makes more sense, dollar and cents wise. At Tendoy, we were hoping closing either incredible school would not happen, but here we are. It has been an honor and a privilege to teach, love, laugh, cry, even share some frustrations with such an amazing staff and learners. I hope it is one I will have for many more years. Please reconsider closing Tendoy Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Allison. Oh, I'm sorry. Is this part of the same?
Yeah, part of the same.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Board, for allowing us to address you today. My name is Sarah Preston. I'm also a para at Tendoy. I know tough decisions have to be made to better the district's financial situation, but it's still heartbreaking to the families involved at Tendoy and Washington schools. We relocated to Pocatello in 2007, and I soon found out that relationships were an important part of District 25's core values. I had informed the neighborhood school that my boys would be enrolling the following school year, and one of them had an IEP. The school was grateful that I had reached out to make the transition go more smoothly. What I didn't expect was the caring, considerate concern that went into that transition for my child. I still hold his sped teacher, Pam Kennedy, in high esteem as she came to our home in the weeks leading up to the school year, just as a get-to-know-you visit, reassure us that our child was in good hands and that he was comfortable going into the school on that very first day. Not only was our time in elementary school a success, but she also helped us navigate middle school transitions. High school led us out to Century, and my special child was led with caring, kindness, respect, and lasting relationships with Kristen Sluter and several outstanding paras. Relationships were a big part of that program, even to the point that the SPED kids were conversing with the football players in the lunchroom, building relationships. There was a time that whenever we would go out in town, his peers would come up to my son and say hi and look at me and tell me how much they loved him. Relationships. As a mom of a child with a child on the spectrum, things you deal with are special and unique. You often wonder if your child will ever have a friend. As we went about our busy lives, people went out of their way to come and talk to my child. Even in the McDonald's drive-thru one time, an employee went out of their way to come and say hi and call him by his name, all because of the relationships that were instilled and built because of the staff at District 25. Why do I tell you my story? Relationships. I could have told you many more names and many more fine individuals that come to mind as I write this. It's all because of the relationships that we formed as we navigate school for our children. These caring, understanding, compassionate, patient people made me want to give back to the district and that helped form my kids. A small part of me of giving back was to become a parent and try to emulate the staff that so touched my children's lives. When I first started my employment at Tendoy, one of the first comments that was made to me was, "Our staff is so close and you'll see." And it's so true. There have been numerous times that their love has gotten me through hard times. One of the times I'll share with you is when my mother-in-law passed away and we were getting set to go home to Spokane to a funeral, and my husband and kids came down with COVID. It was 2021. So we were unable to travel and we were housebound. My Tendoy family came to my rescue. When our principal dropped 3 boxes of food off on my front porch, through the storm door, she looked at me and said, "Boy, you sure are loved." And to this I responded with tears in my eyes and probably running down my face. They sure know how to take care of each other, don't they? And it wasn't just the food, but it was the love that was so felt by my family and me that helped me get us through that unbearable week. When I'm out in public and learners see me, at a minimum, I get smiles, but I often get hugs, and my own children will roll their eyes and say, "This is so embarrassing." And I look at my children and I say, Tendo is their safe place. We are their safe place. Our building and our staff have ensured that the neighborhood learners have a safe place to go 5 days a week, a place they can have 2 meals a day from August, September to May. Fifth graders often leave our school on that very last day, reaching out to all the staff that have touched them in one way or another to say their goodbyes. We all reassure them that they are part of our community and to come back and say hi, and many of them do. I've heard stories that involve, "Hey, Mrs. Preston, remember when?" Those remember whens are because of the relationships that were formed at Tendoy. The teachers and staff at Tendoy not only care about their own classes, but will go out of their way to ensure any learner in our school has a great day. Our school and relationships matter, and shutting us down would be detrimental to our learners' safe place. The relationships formed at Tendoy by the staff, learners, and their parents are unique and special to all of us. Shutting us down would be devastating to our population. Thank you.
The next one is Maria Cancenari.
Hey there, members. I'm here to chat about Tendoy, and my phone's dead, so I don't have my little speech. But essentially, I just want to say, like, what a big shout out to all the teachers, you know, on their day off and Monday and in the cold, like out there trying to show support for the school. Because even though this has been a process, I think a lot of us, from a parent view, weren't aware of it until it's too late in the mix. And so maybe I'm an outsider looking in, but like having been at the past few meetings, it's amazing to learn. It seems like there's a little drama in the town of Pocatello with things that have happened previously and also things that are happening today. But I just think we have the ability to make it right. And I'm sorry to those who feel, you know, alarmed, because it's true what some of the teachers said. They've been carrying this in their hearts, you know, and I have too. And I just shared it with my son because I don't want to tell him, because our plan was always for his little sister. She's going to kindergarten next year. So is she not going to go to Tendoy? Like, have all the other little siblings been considered in the numbers? But, you know, I think everyone here has said it plain and clearly. You know, there are a lot of emotions at stake, but looking at the last PowerPoint presentations, like, I'm a business manager. I manage a building here in Pocatello, and, you know, the financial numbers speak for themselves. And it does seem like it is sad that whatever came about to cause it to be $3.2 million to become ADA, whatever decisions came about that hasn't happened previously, it's happening now. And, you know, respectfully for the board members, in the future, those who sit in your seats, will they have to deal with this problem, or can we deal with it now? Because I also saw on the PowerPoint that there was already land purchased in the past in expectation that eventually this legality would come up, you know, this beautiful old school that may need to be removed from being an asset. And I don't know why Tendoy's on the chopping block. You know, from my son's point of view, he thinks it's a big school because he's just a little kindergartner. And I did also think, like, oh, that little school, but I really love it. And the teachers have been amazing. Like, we're just in Q2, my first year as a parent with my kid in the public school system, and I've seen my teachers so many times outside of school. We did a Wendy's drive. Mrs. Kerr came to his birthday. Like, you know, when I go to the PTA meetings at night, I see the principal chatting with the janitor, you know, in Spanish, and I'm like, you know, right on. It just seems like everyone's so connected, like the principal to the janitor, you know, the paras to the teachers, to the school crossing guard. I love her, you know, and I really love Tendoy, and I'm right there. You know, I'm just, one day my car wouldn't start, and I was like, all right, kids, and we bundled up and we started walking to school because it's right there for me, you know. And I just hope you consider, you know, I don't know if the decision to pause or not, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jim Anglesey.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Jim Anglesey, and aside from being a professional community planner and a beneficiary of the school district, having grown up here, attending Lewis and Clark, Irving, and Century, which has paved my professional career. I'm also representing you tonight as a member of the Board of Directors for Preservation Idaho. As Idaho's only statewide nonprofit dedicated to the preservation of the state's history and architecture, Preservation Idaho wishes to express our support for the continued use of the historic Washington Elementary School. This local landmark has been a fixture for the Pocatello community as an educational institution for over a century, and it's located at the heart of the walkable University neighborhood. National studies have proven that investment in neighborhood schools are statistically more likely to increase owner occupancy, real estate values, and thus neighborhood stability. Studies also show that small schools often have higher levels of academic performance. Washington, as described by the Washington Elementary Advocates, is proof of these findings. I would argue that Washington is a success story of the district, and I believe that parents, students, teachers, district staff, and you, the board, should be proud of the environment and learning culture that you have created at Washington to produce such outstanding academic performance. A letter submitted to you from Jerry Myers, a local architect, went into detail regarding an assessment of the condition of Washington, stating the building is better than normal for a building of its age. The primary issues of Washington, unfortunately, are a result of the hold on reinvestment over the past 2 decades. The building is sound and would offer many more years of service with routine upgrades. With careful consideration, the implementation of judicious, necessary improvements can enhance Washington Elementary so that it can meet 21st century functional demands. Other school districts in Idaho have proven successful in this. For example, under the leadership of Facilities Administrator Tom Willis, several historic school renovations funded by the Boise School District have garnered award recognition and has even become a national case study. Mr. Willis has expressed his willingness to participate in conversations with his peers here in Pocatello, should the board be interested in this collaboration. The retention of this building is critical to Pocatello given the community's loss of other neighborhood elementary schools in our city's core neighborhoods. With the City of Pocatello's comprehensive plan, as well as the downtown development plan, growth is projected to occur by infill development and redevelopment of the city's core and surrounding neighborhoods. This is already starting to occur as planned and in-progress residential developments are occurring in and around our downtown. As population increases and densifies within our core, we will experience a greater demand for educational options in the core neighborhoods. Preservation Idaho stands ready to offer advice, expertise, and contacts in the architectural, engineering, and historic preservation communities to facilitate the retention of this Pocatello landmark. We look forward to the opportunity to work with you to ensure that Washington Elementary School remains a cornerstone of Pocatello's vibrant future. Thank you.
Thank you. Darcy Kerr.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Darcy Kerr. I'm a local businessman here in Pocatello and also a longtime Pocatello resident. I understand the difficult decision that's facing you. I have a wife who's a teacher at Tendoy, and I see the culture of the love and togetherness and the way that the teachers and the staff at the school treat the students. I've had opportunity to come by the school many times, and it's amazing to me to see how such a small school can so beneficially affect the lives of so many students. I would urge the board to carefully consider your decision in looking at closing Tendoy. As a taxpayer, I am increasingly disturbed by the financial issues that have come up over the last 20 years that I've watched with the school district. And it becomes increasingly difficult for me as a taxpayer to look at the idea of signing on to bond levies and other things that would increase my taxes when I see that that money is maybe not being spent in a way that would be demonstrative of what I would suggest would be what we need to do in Pocatello. Spending money on a school that, for all intents and purposes, would normally not be operational by today's standards does not make much sense to me. However, I'm not a fan of closure of any schools. And I urge the board to look at different ways that we can maybe address the shortfall of funds. I understand the number of learners are down in Pocatello for numerous different reasons. But I would urge the board to carefully consider this decision, because as taxpayers, I've had conversations with many people, and we're very, very carefully looking at the decisions that you make. And there are many people that are, as was mentioned earlier, a little distrustful of some of the decisions that have been made in the past, and we see that going forward. And obviously, these are difficult decisions and problems that have existed even prior to you coming on as board members. But I would urge you to carefully consider especially the financial decisions, as that affects me, my family, my business, my patients' business, and their lives, my wife and her students, the teachers. And the numbers have to speak for themselves. So I respectfully leave those comments with you. Thank you.
Mary Ann McGrory will be representing the Pocatello Teachers Union, the Pocatello Education Association. She'll have 10 minutes to represent them.
This isn't my whole speech. Good evening, board members, district staff, and community members. Both as an individual and as president of the Pocatello Education Association, I have remained fairly quiet during this process of redrawing the boundaries for each level of school. This has been in part due to requests from members that I not publicly address the issue, and my own selfish reasoning of the fear of alienating members if we take an official position on the redrawn boundaries and the proposed closing of a school. But the lack of comment has also been noted and criticized. However, the facts cannot be debated. Enrollment in public schools around the state has decreased due to the lower birth rate that is being seen worldwide and the increased accessibility of choice for families and students. The change in funding from enrollment to average daily attendance has also had a dramatic impact on the funding of public schools. In the last 7 years, Pocatello enrollment has decreased by 931 students. This has led to a decrease in funding, as well as inequity in numbers of students in schools, individual classes, and the free and reduced meal program. Just to give a clear understanding to community members, school districts are funded based on how many students are actually in school every day rather than the number of students that are enrolled. When students are out sick, and we don't want them when they're sick, or are on vacation, or are simply cutting classes, that affects our funding, even though buses are still running and classes are still in session. This number of the average daily attendance also determines how much staff the state believes is needed and how many it will fund. Currently, the district has 565 support units, and the state will only fund 548, causing the district to have to cover the $2.7 million deficit for this fiscal year from the fund balance. In the next 3 years, at least 37 positions will need to be eliminated. The district and the Board of Trustees recognize this is not sustainable. Committees were formed with district staff, and parents were invited to join the committees through an Infinite Campus email. All committees were legally noticed, and committee minutes and recommendations have been published on the district website, as well as the minutes of the board meetings, as well as media releases and more Infinite Campus emails. Each committee was provided all data and information and drafted their recommendations. These are the people who know best, and they worked through various scenarios and possible solutions. These committee members met for a total of 11 meetings. The board has heard information from each committee or about each recommendation at 7 different board meetings and 1 community forum. This process has been one of the most transparent ones in the history of the district. You charged each committee to find fiscally responsible solutions to address the decrease in state funding and balance the student numbers. You need to trust their decision-making and their recommendations. During the year of COVID, I, as president of the PEA, was invited to be on the committee to plan for the reopening of schools. I made what I thought was a reasonable and fantastic suggestion based on my perspective as a classroom teacher. One by one, the directors of each department explained how my well-thought-out suggestion would affect transportation, food services, maintenance, etc. This was a watershed moment for me as a teacher and as the PEA president. My perspective was not what I thought it was. My view was that of an individual teacher, and this committee made me realize I needed a more global view. You have heard the committee recommendations and have heard from parents and other organizations that have their own perspective. This is, of course, an emotional issue. Your job is now to look at the facts of what is best for the entirety of the district, the staff and the students, as well as the budget. Each recommendation from the committees have been well-researched and thought out. Of course, change is hard, and not everyone will be happy with whatever decision you make. No one, and I mean no one, ever wants to close a school. I especially feel torn that it has come to this. Around the state, other school districts are having to make the same decision based on enrollment and lack of funding. Nampa closed 4 schools. In Caldwell, 1 elementary building, the oldest, was closed. Middle schools were reconfigured to a 5-6 grade, 7-8 grade. Staff was reduced to the district office, technology, and maintenance departments. Student field trips were cut, and activities were reduced. There are no B teams in sports in Caldwell. Finally, school resource officers and safe school aides were reduced. These decisions were made with no committee meetings and were decided upon without public input. In our district, it is apparent that an elementary school needs to be closed and all school boundaries need to be redrawn to resize schools. The proposed redrawn boundaries will provide for balancing the student numbers. Regardless of the decision tonight, the transfer policy still will be in effect for next year. The committee's recommendation to close Washington Elementary School is based solely on the financial impact of updating and maintaining the school. At the board work session on January 14th, Brian Glenn, head of maintenance, noted that the 20-year cost estimate to update and maintain Washington of over $13 million is underestimated and does not include the $450,000 cost to add an elevator to make it ADA compliant. He also noted the same projected cost for Tendoy of almost $11 million was overestimated. Washington has a lower Energy Star rating and would cost more to install a fire suppression system. The operational and utility cost of Washington is $11,495.96 more than that of Tendoy. Additionally, in the Design West Facility Observation Report, it is noted that for Washington, while the facility has seen upgrades over the years, addressing these deficiencies would require substantial investments and renovations. In closing, every school and every staff member in District 25 provides an outstanding education to all students. I want to say that again because every school and every staff member from the custodian to the principal, from the secretary to the superintendent, provides an outstanding education to all students. Sometimes the gains our students make do not show up on standardized test scores, but gains are still made. In fact, District 25 is leading the state for districts of our size in both graduation rates and the increase in graduation rate. We also have been #1 in staff retention for 2 years. I encourage all community members to contact their legislators and demand full funding for public schools so we don't have to do this again. We ask that you, the board, follow the recommendations made by each committee with the understanding these are not easy decisions, but these are ones that need to be made nonetheless.
Thank you. Next is Rebecca Clausen.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Rebecca Clausen, and I just wanted, I don't like public speaking. There we go. Okay, give me a piano and I'm good. But thank the board for doing all that they could do with Highland, being a Highland parent. While I have not been able to attend a meeting in person, I am one of the 11,000 views on the Facebook, and I was watching the Friday meeting. And I know that this decision has not been taken lighthearted. I also want to thank all the committee members for their hard work. This has not been an easy decision for them to make. I'm friends with a couple of them, middle school and high school, not elementary, but I could only imagine the hard decisions that they've had to come up with. So I have 4 kids that have or are still going to school here. I was also a substitute teacher for PCSD 25 during COVID because I didn't want the schools to be closed. But I'm also a transplant here. We moved here in 2019, so I've seen what has worked and what has not worked. As the previous speaker, I don't know her name, sorry, said, we need to acknowledge the budget shortfalls. Budget shortfalls, I was an accounting major for a couple years and we talked about budget shortfalls. Although it sucks to have shortfalls, it's reality. And budget shortfalls are a conundrum and individuals' feelings can be very strong. Still, our school district has a mandate to balance their budget and they can only do so in a few ways. Either raise taxes, which requires a public vote, and nobody likes raised taxes, or decrease expenditures. I have a personal experience that when I was in Ohio during my middle school years, our middle school was built in 1931. And shortly after I moved away to Idaho, they tore it down because it was too old. And they turned it into a football field. Also, my husband is prior Army. We moved a ton. My oldest son had 3 to 4 elementary schools. I can't count. But he had 3 to 4 elementary schools. And what I have found from all of our moves is that children are resilient. Teachers will not lose their jobs, as has been mentioned several times in the meetings. I heard it from the Wednesday meeting, and I heard it from the Friday meeting. Teachers will not lose their jobs. There are about 230 students at each of Tendoy and Washington, and yet there are 3,000 empty spots in our elementary school district-wide. And while closing a school should be the last option, it should be decided, as the committee members have brought to you guys. We cannot stop and take money from large projects that are already underway, despite the fact that some people feel that their desires are not being met. While we may wish that all can sacrifice the same for the common good of the district, the truth is that the number of schools and ways to balance the budget are finite. Some will necessarily have to sacrifice more, but this is the way life is. Our individual sacrifices may be different, but we should all remember that it is being done for the common good of a community. Just like a business, the board has a responsibility to keep the school district solvent. When a business goes into the red, layoffs, closing facilities, and other similar actions are taken to shore up the budget so the business can survive. Although the school district is not a commercial business, it still must follow similar fiscal rules. It is better now to close a school in order so that the district can bolster its other schools and overall provide better service.
Thank you. Sorry. James Rupp. James Rupp.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there.
So I spoke last week at the open meeting, but I spoke from a more personal perspective. While my favorite part of life is being a dad to my two amazing boys, I'm also very proud to be considered a coach, PTA member, taxpayer, friend, community helper, and businessman. As a local, I've been lucky enough to be supported by our community in all of these areas, even while dealing with tough situations. This is important for my thoughts today because I want to focus on community support. Someone had brought up how Highland is receiving many upgrades with, and I quote from the Idaho State Journal, 31 to 33 million out of a $43 million bill intended for rebuilding schools going to rebuilding Highland, in addition to 20 to 25 million from insurance funds. That means over 51 to 58 million dollars is being dedicated to Highland High School, just one of many schools in the district. I quote the Idaho State Journal directly from the Board of Trustees regarding the recent bond request. The board has framed its work on this issue with the belief that rebuilding Highland High School is not just an investment in educational facilities, it is an investment in the community's economic vitality. Sorry. The district stated in its news release, every time a community takes action to modernize its school's infrastructure, it builds the capacity to create jobs, attract businesses, and elevate property values, laying the foundation for a prosperous future. The district continues to pledge an unwavering commitment to stretch every taxpayer dollar as far as it will go as we work together to position Pocatello School District 25 for a strong, successful future. The cost of a new elementary school would be nearly as much, if not more, than this reconstruction fund. The costs of maintaining Washington over the span of the next 5 years are projected by the board to be $3.1 million and a measly $639,000 for Tendoy. Are you telling me that $639,000 would make a difference? Tendoy shouldn't even be up for debate, and to invest over $50 million into one school, but unwilling to invest $3.1 million into an elementary school instead of shutting it down and needing another $50 million to build a new one in the future would be incredibly irresponsible of the district and go against what it claims it stands for. I want to be clear that I'm not saying that Highland does not deserve to be updated, because it does, but at what cost? There has to be room within the proposed improvements to maintain a balance. Washington and Tendoy deserve to stick around and continue making a difference in our community as well, which has led me to find and suggest some alternative options out of many out there. Has the school district attempted to negotiate with contractors? I could imagine that the publicity received from the Highland project would already be fair if known, but I can only imagine if they also agreed to help save the district money and in turn agreed to be part of the renovations needed at Washington, Tendoy, or many other schools. Not only would they be saving two deserving schools, but they would have guaranteed job security. The support they would also receive from our community would be significant and is something to consider. I have not personally heard anything about the contractor chosen, but that would change if we decide to add publicity into this. Many people have stated they would be more than willing to support a bond for Washington, so has this idea been entertained? The amount needed for the projected next 5 years would be significantly less than any bond that has been requested in the last 20 years, and it would avoid needing to request a bond requiring much more to build a brand new elementary in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nanette Smith. Nanette Smith.
Good evening, board members. Okay. Good evening, board members, Mr. Howell. My name is Nanette Smith. I have been attending these school board meetings off and on, but the meetings these last 4 months have been extremely concerning. After attending the meeting last Wednesday, I was disappointed at the presentation that was given. We have been told that the proposed closing of Washington was mostly due to enrollment, but we found out that there were maintenance issues and it not being ADA accessible. The school board has allowed Washington to fall into disrepair, and in an attempt to strong-arm the taxpayers into closing it and by forcing the students out of their school, it's not right. I, being a taxpayer and seeing how my taxes are being spent, I can see how others are opting to use charter and private schools. I'm going to vote, and I want to go on record to say that I am against closing Washington or Tendoy schools. Okay.
Thank you. Our next request, we are out of time for public comment, but our next request, since I have presented previously, has requested 10 minutes, but even though we're out of time, I would go ahead and offer 3 minutes for each. So Ryan Cameron has never presented, so Ryan, would you like to?
Sure. Good evening, trustees, Chairwoman Judy, Superintendent Howell. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Ryan Cameron, and I'm representing Washington Elementary Advocates. Certainly, we appreciate all of the time and the thought that has gone into this discussion. This is what community is about, facing hard challenges and try to come up with solutions that benefit everybody. The Elementary Enrollment Committee has spent many hours working to improve or to provide you with 3 options. This was one of our first requests as a group. And you, the trustees of our school district, have spent a lot of precious time diligently reviewing data, asking important questions of district staff, and we thank you for all of that hard work. A short 9 weeks ago, we formed Washington Elementary Advocates. This dedicated and diverse group of parents, grandparents, neighbors, and subject matter experts came together quickly in response to the challenges facing our school district. One of the most striking commonalities amongst our members is our love for Pocatello and the broader community. As you've heard us say repeatedly, closing a school has widespread consequences for the neighborhood and the city as a whole. Closing any school has widespread consequences. This sentiment was echoed by the city of Pocatello and NeighborWorks Pocatello in letters to the Board of Trustees. We've also acknowledged that our school district is in a tough spot. Some parts of our own doing over the last 20 years, and some components are simply outside of our collective control. We believe we can help. Washington Elementary Advocates has a subtitle, Championing Neighborhood Schools. We strongly believe in public education and desire a closer relationship with our school district. 2 of our founding values are positivity and collaboration. We've attempted to use these values to guide our words and our actions. Positive collaboration is what we've been proposing and trying to practice. Since our inception and our very first interaction with our district on this matter, we've tried to stay above the name-calling and vitriol that typically accompanies these situations because we don't see them as productive or helpful. With that said, we have expressed our frustration with the process in pointed public statements and written comment. We apologize if any of our comments have been perceived as negative. We sincerely hope that you have felt that our intentions are positive and that we can attribute all of these to our strong desire to be involved in a collaborative working relationship. We hope that our organization has built some trust with our school district, The community in which we live is small, and we're honored to call district staff and trustees as friends and neighbors. The opponent we have in common is the shortage of funds, not one another. We will be a reliable partner in creatively solving our shared challenges, starting with a much-needed renovation of Washington Elementary. You're not alone in this battle, and we're not going away. We did have some specific steps that we would like to mention. We are proceeding with registering as a 501c3 with the state and with the IRS so that we can begin to raise appropriate funds for to help out with a Washington project. We've also enunciated or enumerated several other ideas in our past statements as a group, and we certainly hope that you remember that as you're thinking about your vote this evening. Again, thank you for your time and all your hard work, and Washington's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dakota Bates.
Chairwoman Judy, I appreciate the 3 minutes, even though we're out of time. Thank you. In our discussions as Washington Elementary advocates, we feel we have adequately presented our point of view. We've given you an abundance of data to support our assertion that Washington should remain open. However, we did not want to miss the opportunity to reaffirm our commitment, not only to Washington Elementary, but also to you, School District 25. The following, and Ryan touched on these, are some actionable steps that we are going to take, and we feel they demonstrate our dedication to our cause and will allow us to collaborate more closely with the district. Ryan mentioned we are filing as a 501c3 organization. This allows us to solicit donations, raise awareness, and lobby on behalf of Washington and the district. We are actively taking steps to list Washington Elementary on the National Register of Historic Places. While this does not open up possibilities, or it opens up possibilities for preservation incentives and grants, we want to be clear that this will not be a solution to the long-term maintenance needs of the school. The benefits would strictly be supplemental to those needs. We are working on establishing a network of alumni of Washington Elementary. In 100 years of existence, Washington has touched thousands of lives. And many of those alumni care deeply about Washington and its continued place in our neighborhood. Our efforts over the past few months have made that clear to us. Alongside this alumni network, we will establish a long-term building fund for the express purpose of addressing the facility needs of Washington Elementary. Once we are an established 501c3, donations made to us will be tax deductible, and we can donate those funds to the district earmarked specifically for the needs of Washington. We're actively working to cultivate partnerships with stakeholders in our community who would be willing to provide financial assistance to meet the needs of Washington. We'd ask you to look at the State of the City addresses by both our mayors, and it shows the vast charitable efforts that occur in our community. And we're ready and willing to make the case for Washington to our business community. Finally, as a 501c3, we are able and willing to lobby the legislature on behalf of the district and on behalf of Washington. We have connections in our group with members across the aisle. We will make sure that they understand from a patron's point of view the effects of both the average daily attendance funding method and a possible school voucher program have and will have on public schools. Another benefit of being an official 501c3 is the ability to pay for election communications on political issues. If the district were to consider a limited bond specifically for elementary school needs or an increase in the plant facilities levy, we stand ready to raise funds and advocate on behalf of the district. One thing I've learned throughout this process is that the district has a lot to be proud of. We've done a very good job. Academic performance is excellent. Our graduation rates, as has just been noted in the community, are the best in the state among our peers. And so we, as a group, want to work with you to continue to make sure that that message gets out to the community so that more families will choose public school, just like families have been choosing Washington. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the public comments. We so appreciate it. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the December minutes as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the following minutes as presented.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes authorizing the payment of claims, approving the supplemental financial information, approving the amended human resources activity, the out-of-state and overnight travel requests, camp requests, and early graduation requests. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Can't see it.
Any discussion?
I'll second.
Oh, go ahead. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passed. Next on the agenda are the self-explanatory reports, which include Idaho General Fund Revenue Report, food service fee, free and reduced lunch. You know, I think I already said these earlier, so as presented. Is there a motion?
We don't need that's just for information.
Okay, just for information. Now it is time for board reorganization. At our annual meeting, according to the law, we elect officers for our board. So I will pass the gavel to.
We can just do that kind of symbolically.
Metaphorically?
You,
Okay. You don't want
have to
it?
pass metaphorically. No, it's-
Okay, so.
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to Dr. Howell.
Thank you so much. So for tonight, as Madam Chair mentioned, reorganization. And so I'm just going to cover the 5 items that are here as far as the criteria for serving. And they are interest in serving. Second, experience on the board. 3 is availability. 4, holding a previous office on the board. And number 5, to be willing to be the spokesperson on behalf of the board. And so to open, I would like to entertain a motion for board chair.
I nominate Deanna Judy for board chair.
Okay, have a nomination for
Yeah.
Mrs. Judy.
Mhm.
Other nominations?
Yeah, this might be unconventional, but I'm going to nominate myself.
I would have nominated you anyway.
And the reason being is that I have now served on this board for 3 years. I believe I have earned and garnered a lot of respect from our administrators, the staff, our community, my region, and I would hope other members of the board. I take pride in my ability to listen, to ask thoughtful questions and engage where appropriate and kind of sit back when not. While I don't think any one of us should feel entitled to have this role, I am appealing to my fellow board members to allow me to have this opportunity, at least for my last year in this term. We'll see what happens moving forward, but I would like to, again, very unconventionally nominate myself.
Are there other nominations? Okay, seeing none.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
was just going to ask
nominate-
Mr. Judy if you'd like to. make-
Yeah, I'm just confused by this.
Okay.
I would like to nominate Mr. Ray Knopf, for vice chair. Are you?
We're just doing chair first.
Whoever the board chair is.
Oh,
whether-
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I
Yeah.
skipped ahead. I'm so sorry.
You're
Okay.
And so, yeah, we'll,
Okay.
So
the
we-
board chair will pick that
Yeah,
up.
we can have some discussion, though.
Oh, yeah.
I think that being the board chair takes a long time to learn how to do it well. I think that if someone has been in office, I think it takes at least a year probably to learn how to do it well. And therefore, I think that I would like to see Deanna have another year. I think whenever someone's chair, they should at least have it for 2 years. And then someone else gets an opportunity. But I think she's done a good job. And she's learned a lot. And I think she deserves another year to build on her experience.
Mrs. Judy, would you like to comment?
I am willing to serve another year based on the requirements for board chair. I am willing to. I'm willing to be a spokesperson. Kind of one of the big things going on right now is I guess continuation of what has been going on is, many things. I'll just leave it at that. And I would be willing to continue to serve as board chair, and I agree with Mr. Knopf. I have learned a lot. So I'm willing to.
Okay, so we have 2 nominations. I'll start with the first one. The nomination was received for Ms. Deanna Judy to be board chair. Those board members in favor, say aye.
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 That's 3. I'll call for the other vote. So for Ms. Clark to be board chair.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we have a 3-2 vote, and Deanna will remain board chair.
I will now call for nominations for vice chair. Is there a nomination? I would like to nominate Mr. Knopf as vice chair.
I'll nominate myself.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to.
Oh, I guess I need to ask for a second for Ray.
you don't
first.
No, you don't.
Just nominate.
That's what it says here, but however. Okay, any other nominations? Is that what?
Yeah, I'll nominate Heather.
Okay, so 2 nominations. So we don't need to second it?
No.
Okay, okay. So for vice chair, we'll start with Mr. Knopf. All in favor of Mr. Knopf?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the vote. Was that?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor of Mrs. Clark?
Aye.
Miss Clark, but aye.
Ms. Clark. Okay, so Ms. Clark is our vice chair. I will now call for nominations for assistant clerk. Is there a nomination?
I'll nominate Ray.
Assistant clerk.
So she will be the clerk, and then the assistant clerk will come from the board, Mr. Pacey.
The assistant clerk, that's what we're talking about?
And that currently is Megan.
Oh, it's currently Megan? Okay. I thought-
Uh-huh. And then we also have a treasurer as well.
Okay, well, then I'll call back my nomination. I'll nominate Megan.
Yeah, I'll second that nomination. Are we taking seconds, or?
I nominate Megan as well. I think that sounds great.
Okay, so let's, are there any other nominations for assistant clerk? Okay, so we'll call for a vote for Megan.
Aye.
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 So that passed. Megan will be the assistant clerk. I'll now call for nominations for assistant treasurer. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Ray.
All right. Any other
Back that up.
nominations? Okay. I'll call for a vote for treasurer. Aye.
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 Okay. So I think Ray will be our assistant treasurer. Next, we'll appoint the treasurer, clerk, and backup clerks. It is recommended that the board appoint Mr. Jonathan Balls as treasurer, Ms. Renee Clark as clerk, and Ms. Tara Johnson and Ms. Cheryl Marley as backup clerks. Is there a motion?
Move that we nominate the ones that, as you
Appoint.
presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion aye. Any opposed? The motion passed. Next, the board will appoint the custodians of public records. It is recommended that the board appoint Ms. Courtney Fisher and Ms. Renee Johnson as custodians of public record. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board appoint Courtney Fisher and Renee Johnson as the custodians of public records for the district as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion passed. Next, the board will appoint the district auditor for the 2025-2026 school year. It is recommended that the board appoint Deaton and Company as the district's independent auditor for the 2025-2026 school year. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board appoint Deaton and Company as the independent auditor for the 2025-2026 school year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Next, the board will adopt the 2025-2026 school board meeting schedule as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board adopt the 2025-2026 school board meeting schedule as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is any discussion? Any opposed? The motion passed. Next, the board will designate the posting locations. It is recommended that the board designate the Education Service Center, district website, and district social media sites, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. In addition, meeting notices are sent to local media representatives. Is there a motion?
I move that we designate the areas presented as our designated posting locations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Next on the agenda is volunteer for board committees. The board committees include the Calendar Committee or Capital Improvements Projects, Long Range Planning Committee, the District Curriculum Committee, the Outdoor Athletic Facility Planning Committee, and the Textbook Adoption Committee. First, we'll start with the Calendar Committee.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I would take off the Outdoor Facilities Committee. That is
I
no
was wondering
longer,
about
thank
that.
you.
Okay. Are there any volunteers for the Calendar Committee?
I would volunteer for that.
I will do that as well. If there is nobody, I served on it last year, but if there's nobody else that would like, then I will go ahead and continue on that. Are there any volunteers for the SIP Committee?
I'd like to
I would volunteer. Okay, so.
Was that 4 volunteers?
So
I
Heather,
would like to volunteer
me,
for SIP again.
who else?
I would also, yeah, I would volunteer.
1, 2, 3,
See,
4.
four.
Megan?
Discussion?
Oh, I'm not throwing my hat in that ring.
Okay, so Renee, I don't know how to go about this because in the last 2 years, we've had, I guess, go through who has served in the last 2 years, 3 years?
Well, I've been on it for several years, so.
As have I. Thank you.
So I wasn't on it last year.
No, I wasn't either. That's why I'd appreciate an opportunity to,
Okay, so
gain
does that leave
experience.
it at Mr. Knopfray and myself? Or
How about right now?
Ray? Or
That's
what?
okay, go ahead. I'll back out.
oh, okay, thank you, Jim.
Okay.
And Heather?
There can only
are
be
you
2.
also?
There
Or-
can only be 2 because 3 is a quorum.
Right.
We can have an alternate, essentially, if someone can't make it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So
We can
is
put
it
it that
okay
way.
if I
If you're good with that, we'll
participate on that committee? Okay. The next one is the District Curriculum Committee. I'm sorry.
I just asked her if she wanted to do the curriculum.
Oh, okay. The Curriculum Committee, the District Curriculum Committee.
Sure.
Do you have 2 on that or 1?
There are 2 on that. And so, yeah,
I would like to do that one as well.
okay. So, and we can have an alternate on that as well. So either,
I'll serve as an alternate for that.
okay. So if anyone can't make it, we need to be sure to let the rest of the board members know, and then another person can come. Okay, the Textbook Adoption Committee, this is confusing because it says 1, but we did do 2 last time. So we can have 2. That's what we did last time?
Yeah, we just updated that to where there was 2 with 1 being a non-voting.
I don't think either one are voting
Are
on
they
that
both
committee
non-voting?
because
Oh,
we
it is
vote,
non-voting.
we vote after.
Okay.
I think both are non-voting. Textbook adoption.
I'm on there now. I'd like to continue to be on there.
I will be on that as well too, if I wasn't on it last year, so.
So can I just ask, how many committees that puts you on there,
2.
Ray?
SIP and the textbook. And so I was willing, I'm on the curriculum committee now, but I made way for
Yeah.
you and Megan.
Yeah,
Oh, I
and
thought
it
you
doesn't,
volunteer for curriculum as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I said as an alternate. I thought we already
yeah,
decided
it
that, right?
doesn't, there's no limit to the committee, so, I mean, it's okay to point that out, but there isn't a limit.
Well, you can't have 3 on, can you?
Right, right.
No, there's no limit to how many committees you can serve.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I just thought I'd, provide an opportunity. I've been on the curriculum committee, but I haven't been on the SIP. So I thought that I would like to try the SIP and make way for someone on curriculum.
So the 2 of you would be the district curriculum, correct? Textbook adoption for you.
Yeah, I'd
and
like to
I.
remain on
Okay.
textbook adoption, yes.
Okay, and I will do that. I didn't do that last year. but
Is there something you want it to be on, Jim?
I'm fine.
That's what I was going to ask too.
I'm pretty
we're
sure
kind
he's
of being
happy.
maneuvered here.
We'll now move on to the curriculum and instruction, school safety, and athletics, which we'll begin with Amy Bowie, who will present the parent selection for the middle school science textbook adoption committee.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I want to thank you for providing your selections for parent representation on the Middle School Science Adoption Committee. The board will be asked to approve that list later this evening. The names are as follows: Tamsin Macbeth, Chris Colt, Corey Dunn, Michael Nash, Carrie Bottomberg, and the two non-voting alternates are John Holmes and Josie Dye. My department, the curriculum department, will notify the selected parents first thing in the morning, as well as the parents who are not selected, so that they're aware of the open meeting dates and how they can still participate. And I will also notify, send the dates to the new board members that are on the adoption committee so that you have that full calendar. I'll send that first thing in the morning as well. That concludes my report.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the parent selection for the middle school textbook adoption committee as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the selection of parents for the middle school science textbook adoption committee as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passed. AJ Watson will now present the 21st Century After School Program update.
Good evening, Board. Just a quick update, and I made mention of this last week, I believe, on Friday as well, but we are currently in the process of reapplying for the 21st Century After School Grant. That includes 4 different elementary schools and the preschool at Tendoy. So we have Wilcox Elementary, Tyhee Elementary, Green Acres, and Tendoy. And our preschool, just to clarify, the preschool does run through the 21st, is funded by the 21st Century Grant, which we are applying for. And it has 2 different sessions of 16 learners in the AM and PM, so there's a total of 32 learners in that preschool. So just wanted to make you aware, the deadline is January 30th, and we'll hear, I would assume within a couple of months if we're selected for that grant again or not.
Thank you. Next, I guess you can stay. AJ Watson, Sue Pettit, and Jonathan Balls will present the district enrollment and attendance areas proposals.
I will go ahead and start, and we'll just add a little bit of additional information that was asked for at Friday's meeting to give you some updates. In your packet, you have information, a map. It's highlighted, I'm sorry, with some numbers in there. That was as quick as we could get turnaround time, but hopefully it'll clearly identify a few areas that have been discussed as you consider the options tonight. We'll start down south in the Indian Hills, Jefferson enrollment area. Does everyone have that map up with the highlighted? I think
It's okay, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, you've seen it? Okay, I'll make sure everybody has it before you have it.
What's it labeled as?
I want to say it's addendum
Amended.
amended.
Proposal.
Elementary proposal. Yeah,
Got
amended
it.
elementary proposal.
I see middle school proposal.
Did you get it? It's the second link.
Oh, there it is. Okay, got it.
And it should have some highlights and numbers. So starting down south, we discussed the area by Riverside Golf Course and the South Valley Connector. Those numbers kind of split it into 2 different sections there. I'll call it a north and a south section. The south section down by the South Valley Connector, that has 5 elementary learners in that area. And then more north, on the other side, north side of Riverside Golf Course. This is in between the Bannock Highway and the railroad, kind of that section. So if we were to move, that area has 15 learners. So if that boundary line were to move to Bannock Highway, that would be 20 additional learners that would attend Indian Hills and 20 fewer learners that would be at Jefferson Elementary. I talked with transportation. They said it would not be an issue either way for transportation if that change was made and the boundary line was shifted to Bannock Highway rather than the railroad. Moving forward or moving up further north, we talked on Friday and had these numbers for you, but just to clarify, that area going to Gate City, or that is currently going to Gate City, with the proposal, if a school is closed, to move that area to Syringa. That has 43 learners in that area. The area that is currently Tendoy, these are both on the other side, the east side of I-15. That area for Tendoy, or Idaho, excuse me, is 10 learners in that area. And then just one more additional item that came up in discussions and looking at the map. There's one little area that's Chubbuck and Wilcox. It was initially proposed that that would be on Victor Lane. Looking at the boundaries in the map, it made more sense to adjust that just one street over and use Chubbuck Road instead of splitting that neighborhood in Cotem Park. Just logistically, it made more sense, and there's 10 learners in that area. So it would, instead of, you can see the boundary already travels down Chubbuck Road, but then it cut into Victor. It would just remain down Chubbuck Road to Ponderosa. Geographically on the map, it made more sense as a boundary line rather than using Victor. So there's 10 learners. And then also, I don't know how big it is on your map. It just shows the proposed change on there. I just included it on the map, the data, to show building capacities and average class size, if those enrollment areas were changed or put back into their regular school. So there's a little bit of a change in there percentage-wise. The biggest one, obviously, is Gate City. Its impact goes from a building capacity of 69.46%. With the additional 43 learners, we'll go up to 77.14%, an average class size of 24. So it would be back up to our highest capacity as far as an elementary school, moving those 43 learners in.
So instead of Syringa be 25.5, what does it put Syringa at?
So Syringa goes down to 22.25,
And
average
from
class size.
25.
From 25, correct.
Okay.
And it drops down in its capacity from 69.56 to 60.54. If you take both those two areas, Gate City and Idaho, those 53 learners out of Syringa and put them or keep them at their home school or their current boundary school.
So Gate City will still be 1 percentage point less than Syringa would have been with this.
In terms of student,
Would have been 25.
class size, class number, yes.
Class size, yes. Okay.
So I've got a question here, just to make sure I understand. So down in the south, the 5 and the 15, they were proposed to be moved to Jefferson, and then we received input from the people that said there was a walkway and they could walk to school. So this proposal is to take those learners and allow them to remain in Indian Hills so they can still walk to school. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great, okay. Now up here, Gate City and Syringa, the 45 and the 10, we received input that, people enjoyed being in the school where they were, and they were having difficulty having access, moving over to Syringa. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so then we're honoring their desire to stay in Gate City with the 43 and 10. Is that?
43 would stay at Gate City, 10 would stay at Idaho. See how there's two separate sections
Oh,
there.
okay, so there would be no change in the parents' requests are being honored.
Those would remain as they currently are.
Okay, good, great. And then up in Chubbuck, I don't remember if we had much input on that, but it certainly makes sense.
No.
Yeah, there was a couple of calls that I just filled it in as we looked at the map. It made sense, as a better boundary line, whereas Chubbuck Road is a pretty significant boundary line for a number of the other boundaries to just move that boundary and move it to Chubbuck Road rather than use Victor.
Okay, thank you.
And Wilcox, how does that change Wilcox?
So Wilcox, it's just a difference of 10 students. So Wilcox would add an additional 10 students to their class size, and Chubbuck would lose 10 students. So very small in terms of percentage class size. Okay, I think Jonathan will follow up with some additional information.
Again, on Friday, it was asked to look at the current certified teaching staff costs there at Washington and Tendoy, and that has been added into your addendum there, 1.8 million for Washington, 1.5 million respectively for Tendoy. And so wanted to share those with you per the request on Friday. Also wanted to mention, we had a conversation regarding Lincoln about some of the resources Mr. Watson shared that we, both the Lincoln Early Intervention and Head Start share some resources. So if those were ever to split, I just ran the current numbers, it would cost us right around $200,000. Because currently they share a special education teacher, some SLPAs, some OT and PT services, as well as some equipment. And so just wanted to kind of share that number.
So they wouldn't be able to share them anymore.
That is correct, if they are ever separated in the future. That was all of my requirements
you.
from Friday.
And on, in your packet, you have a middle school map addendum. And it was the same request that the section that would be going from Gate City to Syringa, for middle school, they would be going from Franklin to Alameda. And if we left that where it is and left it in Franklin, it's a matter of 24 students that would stay at Franklin and 24 less that would be going to Alameda.
And so it wouldn't.
And it would
divide
be an
the
I-15.
neighborhood.
Mhm.
So the Indian Hills one, they were.
We had
always at
nothing to do with
Irving,
that.
Didn't have to
Yeah.
touch that.
Nope. Nope, the only thing that we needed to change would be that.
So that's the middle school proposal map, 864 kilobytes.
The addendum,
Oh, the addendum. Oh, okay. There we see. Oh, okay.
That is the one, Mr. Knopf.
Yeah, I've got it now.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll stay close if there's any questions, but we will go sit down now.
I just wanted to also correct one comment that was made on the latest. This is what was in our materials, the elementary building capacity tool that you had given to us. It was mentioned that there were 3,000 empty spots in the elementary, and according to this, it's 2,930. So just to correct that, according to this, is that right? Okay. 'Cause I went back and looked and did the math, and so, okay.
Mr. Bell, some final comments on financial status. Would you
Yes,
just
yes,
talk
thank
a
you.
little bit to the board about that?
You bet. Thank you.
With these three options.
Thank you for that. As Dr. Howell and I were talking this morning, again, I mentioned to him, I want to mention to you, that again, whatever the boards decide, we will support myself from the financial business office as well as the maintenance office. And so we know you have a hard decision in front of you, and we will support that and do our very best going forward and make it the very best situation for our learners and our staff going forward.
So just let me check the action items then. So the action item is we're going to look at proposal 1 to close Washington, and option 2, close Tendoy. And amended proposal number 1, amended option number 2. I'm not sure I really understand.
That's these boundary changes.
Oh, the boundary changes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
those amended options for either if a school is considered to be closed would be for either.
Oh, okay,
They would
for
work
the
for both,
enrollment.
yes,
Yeah,
one
okay,
or
so
two.
well, if we adopt option 1 or option 2, then that's for the enrollment, okay. And then we have the middle school proposed, and then the amendments we looked at today, and as well as the elementary school, the high school option A and A1. Okay, good. I think I've got an understanding there. Thank you.
So, actually what I was going to call for is an elementary proposal. Is that how, that's how it's written on here. I would entertain a motion with regard to elementary proposals. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we, I guess it'll come in the discussion, but mine is number 3, to rebalance enrollment without closing a school.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Any discussion?
There we go.
No.
I guess why I would like to have that opportunity to explain why I have that position, and I don't know if it'll change, and to everyone that is listening and watching, and, I won't speak for anybody else, but this has been several sleepless nights over this. And I have literally been sitting on my phone every time it pinged with the hundreds of responses that have come in. And I personally want to thank everyone for being engaged and being interested. And I want you to know, see, I even brought my tissues. Everyone thought I was sick, but it's because I've got water and suckers and because I'm a crier. I have heard these stories. My heartstrings have felt the pain and the frustration and the potential sadness. I hear what each of your students may endure, or we all know kids are anxious these days. There are kids that want that community, that want that feeling of belonging, and I am so proud of both of these schools. I'm proud of all of our schools that provide that kind of community. And in my mind, I feel like one of the things that does stand out to me is, now Tendoy is going to get overwhelmed because everybody wants that, or Washington, everybody wants what you have. And so us as a board are tasked with that role to make sure that every kid and every student in this community has that experience. And so that's what really makes this hard, and why I believe in some instances rebalancing is what we need to be doing first, so that there can be a smoothing, and I used the smoothing of the icing, because I do believe, and I also agree with what has been said, that this decision has felt rushed. And I have felt, oh, sorry, I'm choking up, my throat gets tight, is that I feel like the committee did do commendable work, hours, and looked at so many different things. But I don't believe they were tasked with looking as closely at the budget as the board is responsible for. And so I think there's another step that, yes, they were tasked with enrollment and redistributing and balancing. And yes, they came with a recommendation, which was never part of their task, to come forward and come up with a closing of school. And I feel like in some ways that has been a low-hanging fruit to solve a problem that the board needed to be the board needs to be more engaged. And while I can't take responsibility for past boards or past administrations, nor am I casting blame, because they've all sat in this seat too and had those sleepless nights and had to address and talk to people and hear people, and they made their decisions. And I think our board has an opportunity to make a different decision, or perhaps continue to make the work that needs to be done. I am so appreciative of this group that has stepped forward, and not because they're out to close Tendoy. And that's another thing that I think, and I'm sorry I'm talking so long, but I think this is important. This was in no way meant to pit these two schools against each other, and I want you all to hear that. This was not an us or them. I think that's something that happens in our district at the high school level and doesn't need to be there. We are all one district. We all have the same goal of doing what's best for our students. But we also have to remember it's best for all of our students, not just for any one single school. Pull up my notes real fast. Sorry, I'm taking a little bit longer.
No,
and if anyone else,
finish.
Thank you. I believe it's us as the board has to roll up our sleeves and do a little more of that deep dive and find out what it is that it's possible. I know we've had comments from historical groups that maybe there's something within Washington that is of value to the entire city of Pocatello, which is why part of, and I guess it's comes up later, but I would like to potentially run a bond. See if the entire community supports saving the school. But what that will mean, though, in the chance that that were to pass, is that we would have to close Washington in order to make those changes and make the fixes that needs to happen. And so then we're looking at redistributing, because at the end of the day, those buildings still belong to the district. It's not like you can turn off the lights and go home. Those will still be resources that the district has to maintain to some level. So it's not like it's just we make this decision and we walk away. And so in some ways I feel like, okay, we've got one opportunity to run a bond this year in May, thanks to our legislators. Is that the time we reach out to our community and see if our taxpayers also believe in the same? Because I think, Jonathan, I'm sure you're, this kicks the can down the road, which I know is not an easy thing. But I think we owe it to these students. I think we owe it to our taxpayers. I think we owe it to these two schools that have kind of been thrown up on the chopping block. But the other thing that is also, I am hearing, besides just the money, because I do think this is more about money, is if you look at the map, south of town does not have the growth, is not having the growth. And so what I also struggle with is you remove Washington, we then have really cut off south of town from any, aside from building a new school. And so when all this growth, someone sent me, and I wish I had it in front of me, the list of all the approvals of apartments and building that's taking place. That's wonderful. But it's happening north. And how do we prepare for that? How does the district be able to accommodate that without, we're going to be back doing this in another, who knows? I don't know how soon it'll happen again. So how are we preparing for that? Let's see. The other thing was brought up is, what are the variances for either of these buildings? So we close it, I know it was thrown out, and please remember, these are open meetings, and so when things are thrown out, it's because we are not allowed to talk amongst one another. It can only happen here. And so when comments are made, people take those sound bites and think that that's a joint comment. It's just, so last week when I said something about a charter school, it was merely a thought that came, that school's going to be a prime, does that mean the district's going to sell to it? That's a decision that later happens, but there are things that we have to be able to discuss. And so I guess my final point is that I believe there's more work to do. I appreciate that there's community effort to make this work happen. A comment was made last week that we can't touch our savings. We've got to keep our savings. But in my mind, this is what savings are for. These last instances when we have to grapple together and come up with a solution. And I don't think we have, again, not taking away from the enrollment committee. They did their job. I think the redistributing that needs to happen still needs to happen. I'm just not convinced we need to be closing a school.
Are there any other comments at this point?
I appreciate what Mrs. Clark has said.
Yes.
She's, and I can agree with her on a lot of those points. I struggle with the fact that if we keep both schools open in 2 years, we will have depleted our savings, and then we won't have any money, and maybe we can get a bond passed, and I don't know how long that will take to do that.
But then we'd know. And I'm not projecting that we need to just go through savings. It's.
And then if we do, and if we don't, one way or the other, we'll probably still have to close Washington or Tyndall, one or the other. We'll have to close the school, and we'll have depleted our savings, and then we won't have much. And then if we want to keep the two schools open and continue doing that, the only way, if we don't get a bond and if we can't raise our levy, how else do you go about saving money would be to cut wages, and we don't want to do that. That would not even be an issue. And I appreciate that Mr. Cameron has a group that's looking into the national historic, what do you call that?
Registry.
Yeah, the National Historic Registry. And I got an email from that showed the possibilities of that, and maybe there might be enough there to help do what we need to with Washington and get it fixed up and make it right. It's a hard decision. It really is. It's hard. It's hard for both schools. As I look at the emails and I look at the concerns of the people, and they're like twins. They are exactly the same. People are concerned because this is our family. This is our tradition. This is where our kids feel safe. And it's the same for both schools. It doesn't change from one school to the other. They're both great schools. They have both great teachers and administrators, and they provide a great service for where they're at and what they're doing. And I think even if we keep both schools open, if I looked at some of the, I guess we could leave the boundaries exactly like they are, but then that wouldn't be balancing very well. And if we keep both schools open, there are going to be students that will be affected in their, where they'll have to go to one school or change schools or something. And so there are going to be people affected. And somebody said here tonight that our kids are resilient, and they are. We have, you know, I think we underestimate how resilient young kids are. And I think as a community, as a parent, as a friend, whatever we are, if we're positive with these kids, when they have to make a change, they will do fine. They will bounce back, and they'll come out on top. If we are negative with them and tell them it's going to be terrible that they have to change and lead them down that road, they'll follow that road, and they will be saddened, and they're going to miss their school, and they're going to miss some things about them. But I think that they'll bounce back, and they'll have new opportunities to meet new friends, to have new playgrounds, to have new teachers and administrators. And that probably changes every year anyway with them. They get a new teacher every year. And sometimes administration changes also. I would love the idea, and it would be great to be able to keep both those schools open. But I don't think it would be a financially wise idea to do that. That's my opinion.
Ray, did you have something?
Yeah, I agree with Jim. I think Marianne McGrory pretty much summarized the situation we're facing. This committee had 11 meetings over a period of months. I'm a former district-level administrator for 2 public school districts in Oregon, and I know that they had people from the district, they had people from the individual schools, the building level administrators. They had people from the public, and of course Jonathan there to help them with the finances, and they discussed all of that, and they put a lot of hard work into it. They concisely summarized their conclusions to us, and I think we have to respect all the hard work they put into that. Also, too, all the redistricting stuff they talked about was in an effort to balance class size and the socioeconomic distribution of our students. They outlined why they do not recommend option number 3, summarized it pretty well on this one sheet of additional options. There's a risk that we will consolidate classrooms. They spent weeks examining these complex issues, and they concluded that closing a school had the least negative impact on all of our learners in the district. So from past experience, I've learned that when the people are on the ground, out there in the trenches every day, spend weeks and months talking about these things. I respect all of their hard work and their considered judgment, and I'm inclined to agree with them. Also, I think that when we consider closing an elementary school, we need to consider the welfare of the entire community, and that would include our taxpayers and the most disadvantaged students and members of our community. And some of the most needy learners in our community are our special education students. I think that's one of the most valuable services we provide to the community as a public school system. That support is not out there for families to do for themselves. I think a lot of times charter schools and private schools don't step up to the bat to take care of these, our most disadvantaged students. I think we're doing an excellent job of that. I think that even I've heard that people are referred to our district from other districts because they can't receive the services they need there. And I'm a big proponent. I think that's one of the most important things we're doing is helping our special education students, our deaf and hard of hearing students, and those with other disabilities. We have a lot of unfunded mandates from the state legislature and from the federal government. I think these mandates are good, but they're usually unfunded. Perhaps Superintendent Howell can correct me, but I believe the funds we receive for special education are not sufficient to meet our needs.
That is correct.
And we are borrowing from the general budget in order to meet those needs. Is that correct?
To a large degree in previous years, in just this last probably year and a half, to the credit of our staff and Mrs. Harris, the Director of Special Services, we've been able to take more advantage of Medicaid billing, and so we're able to make up that difference, and actually we're better off than we've ever been in that area.
Nevertheless, we're still not
There is
receiving-
always a need.
There's a discrepancy.
Yes, our special education population has grown quite a bit in the last 2.5 years.
Okay, well, I commend the good work there. And I still feel that, we're running sort of a deficit there as well, though, and these are the most needy students we have. Also, too, when we talk about property taxes or bonds, my position on this is that I feel that these are regressive taxes that harm the poorest people the most. Everybody ends up paying the property tax, whether they know it or not. If they rent, the property owner does not pay that property tax. He passes that on to the renters. And these are some of the most disadvantaged people in our community. They can't afford a home, a single working mom, people like that. They are the ones who suffer the most when we need to look for a bond or increase our supplemental levy, which I believe you said that if we were to follow option C, would definitely have to increase our supplemental levy. Is that correct?
Yes, very
Okay.
likely, Mr. Na.
Also, too, we have a diversity of people representing the board here. I'm a senior citizen, and I know that we have a lot of retired people in our community who are on fixed incomes, and that lately property assessments have increased a great deal. And there are people who bought their homes many years ago, and now their property taxes are increasing. They're retired, they're on fixed incomes, and it's a difficulty for them as well. So, we're fortunate that the community supports us with these supplemental levies, but I certainly don't want to see them increase. I appreciated all the input we've received during this process. I appreciate all the input we received tonight, and I agree with everything everybody had to say. But when it comes right down to it, based upon my experience, I must defer to the committee that did so much hard work, and all of their efforts in doing the redistribution of the boundaries and everything else are based upon their months of hard work. And I agree with their assessment. I think that they did not recommend option 3, and they enumerated at least a dozen reasons why. And I think that we should honor their hard work and their conclusions.
Thank you.
My turn.
Sure.
I just want to agree with what everyone has said, that we really have spent so many hours, sleepless nights, thinking about this. No matter what choice, I think there's going to be happy people and mad people, and just trying to think about it logically and fiscally, that's a hard decision. I've been able to visit both elementaries, and the kids there were so happy. It was a really good experience at both of them. I went around with Mr. Watson and Mr. Balls, and they toured me through the buildings and through the playgrounds. So I felt like I got a good feel for how things were going, and we've heard wonderful testimonials of teachers and administrators from the community. So they really are doing good things at all those places. As a former teacher, I feel like when you look at the numbers and you see this teacher gets 16 kids and this teacher has 28 kids, they're making the same paycheck. And I feel like we really do have to look at those numbers in that way, that we need to even this out somehow. I'm not happy with any option because I don't feel like any option makes everybody happy. But I do feel like balancing it out for the teachers and for the students, so all the students are getting the same education, really is the optimal decision. I think we can be fiscally responsible and provide the best education for our kids. I think we all hate that decision, but I think I agree with Ray and Jim that we can't sit in a deficit for years and just hope that things turn around. We've got to do something about it.
Thank you. I'll just share my remarks, and then if there are any other remarks, you certainly can share. There have been so many kind and thoughtful comments, so many, hundreds. I appreciate the comments that have been so kind and so helpful. I have learned a lot in this process, and the members of the Volunteer Enrollment Committee that have taken the time to volunteer and serve our community in such a selfless manner is commendable, and I deeply appreciate that. It's important to acknowledge our maintenance and business department for the way they have tirelessly repaired and keep the buildings in our school districts maintained. We have been commended in both of the schools, Tendoy and Washington, when we had the Design West tour both of those schools, how well maintained they are. The committee that we established, we meant for that to be very representative. It had parents, teachers, administrators, all of whom have the best interests of the children at heart. And parents, you know best. You know what is best for your children. And that's why we asked for more than half of that committee to be parents. It was important to us. I also acknowledge the work of my fellow board members whose valuable time is given freely to help with the governance of the school. Our teachers have been top priority to our district. 85 to 86% of our entire budget goes to salary, pay, and benefits, because that is our priority, and that I think will never change. No matter what decision is made, no teacher or staff member will lose their job. And I'm really, really, really grateful that we can do that. So because of the decline in enrollment, the need to rebalance our greatest resource, our teachers, is necessary in order to ensure that each child receives their very best student-to-teacher ratio we can afford from the money that the state gives us and from our supplemental levy. Many ideas have been shared. We've had lots of community members and parents who have shown great concern, and we have most definitely listened, including our mayor, who has offered his opinion and shared his thoughts. So I just want to comment, there was a comment made about Boise, restoring some buildings. That's commendable. Their last bond was $172.5 million. So just to keep things in perspective, it's a really big decision. The restoration of a building is different than maintenance. And maintenance has been remarkable. And I just feel like that needs to be stressed, that our maintenance department is phenomenal. They have done such a good job. But, when you consider $172.5 million to upgrade 22 schools, that was what the focus of I just looked it up at 22 schools. How much is our levy for just facilities? Right at $7 million. That's what our levy is for facilities. So when you consider 85 to 86% of our budget goes to teacher pay and salaries and staff, and then we have a $7 million budget for all of our schools' maintenance, that's remarkable and commendable. I just want that to be very much kept in perspective. And the accomplishments of our district, graduation rates, teacher retention, so many things. I have been very impressed. So Again, I would like to just express my thanks to all the parents and community members who have expressed kind words and solutions. We have such a great community that supports our public schools, and I am impressed by you. I would like to also acknowledge Heather's comments about levy. I would love to see Washington restored. That would require a levy.
Bond.
A bond, I'm sorry, a bond. Our levy would not cover that. As you can kind of tell, it wouldn't cover that. We have to, that's for all of our schools, the entire district. So when we talk about the maintenance needed, or maybe restoration is a better word for it, that's needed at Washington, if you consider, I've seen the book, it's about this thick, of all the maintenance that is needed throughout the district. It's not small, and it's not limited to one school. It's across the district, and it has to be balanced based on most desperate need. And I feel like it's handled in the best way that, that we can do. I feel like I haven't agreed with every decision, but nobody would. But that's not to say that it isn't good decisions and very well managed. I do believe it's been very well managed for what we have. Those are my comments, and I would call for a vote on that motion.
Can I make one more comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
That's
yes.
okay.
Yes, go
I
ahead.
didn't, I'm not much of a public speaker, and I didn't make any notes. I was going to, and I didn't, but I agree with, we want to thank our committee that worked on this, and I know they put a lot of work into it. And we do want to appreciate all the good comments that we made. And we love the fact that you love your school and your students and your staff, because both schools have a phenomenal family, if you will, in your schools. I want to let you know that this is my own personal opinion, but I think School District 25 is one of the best school districts in Idaho. I think that and I think that's because of you and because of our administration that we have, and those that are really concerned about the education that we have. And, we not just have, we just found out that we were the highest graduation rate in the state for big schools. We have probably the best alternate school in Idaho that we went from, when I first got on the board, we were graduating maybe 12 to 15 kids. And last year it was 140, is that right? Graduated 140 kids last year.
So good.
And now we have our CTE program coming up that's gonna be number one. Soon as, when we get it completely running like it should, I know that we're gonna have a great school there. And I think, I'm a longtime Pocatelloan from the time I was born, so I've been here forever, and you can't get rid of me, I guess. I tried twice to leave this down, and I had to come right back. I love Pocatello. I love where it sits. I love the way it is. I love our community and the good people that are here, and there are a ton of good people in this town. And I hope that whatever happens tonight, that you will support us and know that we want to do what's best for you and your family and our learners, because that's what's important. And I've worked with youth for a lot of years, and I love working with young people and watch them grow and watch them change and become an adult. It's been a great part of my life. And I just want to say that I think we have the best school district in Idaho. Go ahead.
Are there any other comments? I'll call for a
Doug
vote
Howell
on.
does.
So, Madam Chair, you had a motion, and then you'd ask for a second,
Oh.
and then the discussion started, just as.
So we don't have a second, so I will ask for it. And
Can I just add one more thing to the thought? So back to the class sizes, my understanding is if we were to go with option 3, it still would diminish classes. So you would have 2 third-grade classes at one building and maybe 1 at another, and that would be a domino effect around the whole district, not just the 2 smaller buildings. And I do feel like that's a disadvantage to those teachers to not have a cohort that they get to work with, bounce ideas off of and collaborate together, because when you have one third grade teacher and no one else is third grade, the bigger picture to me is it's hurting the kids and the teachers to run at a really small number in specific buildings all around the district.
Our class sizes do need to remain the same because that's how we're funded from the state. We're funded based on about 25 children per classroom, except for kindergarten, which is a little bit less. And if we do less than that, we have to ask our taxpayers for that additional, the amount for the additional teachers to cover that. And so we already supplement the teacher pay from what the state gives to us, then our supplemental levy supplements that pay. And that's why we have awesome teachers.
So if I can just make one clarifying comment. So my intent is not, or my motion is not that this become an indefinite. It is merely giving us a little more wiggle room to do the research beyond what the enrollment committee. Again, I don't think the enrollment committee did not look at the budget as a whole. And I think that's where it's on our shoulders to be doing that. And working with Jonathan, our business development manager. And so this was also giving the opportunity for the community, the entire community, to have a say versus just, the 5 of us or the 10 or so on that committee. So this was not meant to be a long term, but I think it needs to be given a further in-depth.
Just a comment, Jonathan, our business operations has been integrally involved in the committee research and work, just at their disposal.
But were you on the committee? I was not. He was not, because that wasn't part of their responsibility.
The numbers were, I guess, did come from that committee from Jonathan. So all the numbers that they were given.
Are you done?
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to piggyback on what you said and what Megan said. What is it, 86 or 88% of our budget pays for employee wages, health care, PERSI, a public employee retirement system of Idaho, pensions, et cetera. Is that correct? Right.
Depending on the school year, but it's about 86.
Yeah, and so that's where most of our budget comes from. And, I just don't think we can justify maintaining the extra staff based upon the changes from enrollment to average daily attendance, et cetera. The reason why the committee recommended option 3, they said that, for example, capacity levels could vary anywhere from 55% to 72% in the different schools if we don't reduce staff. And we're going to reduce that staff through attrition. No one's going to lose any of their jobs. But we've had a steady decline in enrollment for 7 years now, I believe is what AJ testified to. And I just don't see that trend changing. And I think that, it's going to cost us, I think Jonathan said, $2.3 million just in those wages for next year?
Correct. For this entire year, it'll be 4.7, but then 2.6 from what was budgeted.
Right. And so because of the change in average daily attendance, we were down about $8 million, right? But we got a one-time grant of $4.2 million or something to help bail us out. Yeah, please do come and
Yes, that, I referenced a sheet, I think it was given December or November, there are different degrees, yes. So as the base year was prior to COVID, yes, and this was from ADA to ADA, it was a little over $8 million that we lost. Again, and then when we looked at what we were going to, budget for this year, we had budgeted some decrease, but the drop in enrollment was more than what any of us had realized, and that's what kind of put us down this path, as I've commented on before.
Right, so we're we're at a deficit, we can cover it, but roughly, we got a one-time grant for
Correct, 4.2 million.
4.2 million. That reduced, yeah, but we're still 4 point some million at a deficit, and we will have a, what, did you say, $2.8 million minimum
Correct. It'll be-
deficit every year we continue to maintain excessive staff?
That is correct, yeah, as we try to
Okay.
balance our
Right.
staffing with our revenues.
And all I would say is that I agree with Jim. We just, you know, we can't take a gamble. By law, we're required to maintain what percentage? 15%, 10 to 15% surplus in our budget. Is that correct?
Emergency savings.
Emergency. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I don't mean. But I mean, this is all good for transparency.
It is a little bit less. So it's recommended. So by our policy, it's 5%, 4%, and a 1%. But then, you know, our industry standards, the government officials recommend that we have at least 2 to 3 months in surplus just for this event, so that we can continue through the next year until we can make some changes, for the next year.
Because our budget lags.
Our staffing budgets, yes, lags by a year.
Well,
So what
again,
percentage do we have?
So,
Excellent question. We're right, as a percentage.
I remember
I'd
you
have
saying
to
this at a
double check.
very recent board meeting, but
Yeah,
we don't have the numbers right in front of you.
I'm trying to think of, I know we're, as of June, we had a healthy carryover. I don't, as a percentage, I think we're probably 8 or 9. I'd have to please let me verify that for you.
I guess where I'm sitting is that I feel like we are shirking our responsibilities as a board to not do the extra work that, the committee, very commendable with what they did, but they were not elected to this position. And the low-hanging fruit would be to make this decision without our doing our due diligence on the budget and looking at those numbers.
So, seeing there is not a second, I'll ask for a new motion.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear any of that.
Seeing there is not a second for that motion, I will ask for another motion.
Well, what was the motion?
The motion was option 3.
Option 3?
There wasn't a
No school closure.
There wasn't a second.
No, there was not a
So we
second.
moved on to comment. So seeing no second, I will ask for a new motion. Is there a motion?
Oh, let me, my computer shut down here. Let me just get logged back in for a second. Well,
Is there a motion?
yeah, I wanted to make sure I got everything correct there, but looking here.
The other 2 options
Yeah, I
are
make a
option 1 is to
motion.
close
Thank you,
Washington
Jen.
Elementary. Option 2 is to close Tendo.
I make a motion that we follow option number 1, which was the original recommendation of the committee, that we close Washington Elementary School, maintain Tendoy, and follow their recommendations for
Is-
the redistribution of the enrollment areas, et cetera.
Is there a second?
Is that, I need to clarify on the redistribution of enrollment, is that just the original proposal or the amended proposal?
Amended. Oh, I'm sorry, Ray, you speak. You speak for that.
Well, so the amended proposal includes
the
what
neighborhoods.
AJ presented
That was
tonight.
presented today.
Those areas down, so people could walk to school,
Yes.
et cetera. Yeah, that's my proposal.
It's this one right here.
Yeah. The amended-
Okay, is there a
You amended
second?
Yeah, amended
on-
proposal number 1
That's it.
with the map, et cetera, that AJ discussed, and I had my questions about.
Okay.
And and it just as an explanation, well, we're going to have some.
Well, let me
discussion
ask
after
for a
this.
second, and then
Okay.
I'll ask for discussion. Is there a second on that proposal?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Lots of discussion.
Yeah. Well, once again, we're talking all about fiscal responsibility, and, you know, I've read all the letters and I listened to all the comments everybody made tonight. And I think that none of us wants to close the school. There's not anybody on this school board of trustees. I don't think there's anybody in the district that wants to close the school.
No.
But we have got to maintain fiscal responsibility, and we just can't count on somebody coming in to bail us out with extra funds. When you look at the costs associated with maintaining Washington, when you talk about repair costs, also we have issues with fire safety there, if we're talking about sprinklers, et cetera. We have more problems with ADA compliance. The additional costs that Mr. Balls gave us were just conservative estimates. Is that correct? Can you just, they were conservative estimates. And I think that the ADA and safety requirements are my main concerns with the Washington School. I appreciate its location. I appreciate very much that it's a very good school. I think we all have good schools and good people, and all those good people are going to be retained, and they're going to have
So can I
retain their
make
jobs.
a point of order? Sorry to interrupt, but we're reiterating some things over. Are we allowed to submit a different motion? When does that,
When this
can that?
discussion is over.
If I want to amend the motion or
After the
present
vote.
different?
After the vote.
Oh, are you saying, you would like an amendment to the motion?
Correct.
That is on the table.
Correct.
You can.
Okay,
you
when
can-
Ray
yeah.
is finished with his
When we're
comment.
finished with the discussion, you can
Then you
propose an
can
amendment.
amend.
Sure, I mean, if it was inappropriate, I can retain my comments for later.
No, no,
Not
you
inappropriate. I just
finish,
think,
you finish
you know,
your,
we're already at 8 o'clock and I.
Yeah, but it's a very important issue, and I think for transparency, you know, the public is very interested in this, and this is an open meeting, and I think they'd like to know exactly why we're going to vote the way we're going to. You know, once again, I think, you know, we have a lot of primary concerns in the district, but I mean, the very first one is the physical and the emotional safety of our students. And I just think, given the age of the building, Washington is in its 105th year of service. It's given us good service, but nothing lasts forever. Tendoy's 39 years younger. I wish I had 39 years back. That makes a big difference. And as far as, you know.
You'd be just a kid then.
Yeah, really. Getting sprinklers in there, and in case of a fire or an earthquake, heaven forbid that should happen, but we had a big earthquake event up by Mount Bora. There's a big rift up there. There is a possibility. And when I consider the student safety and the fiscal responsibility, I think that we should take the recommendation of the committee. I want to honor, once again, all the work they did and go with option
Amended
one,
amendment.
with the amendment of 1A.
One. Just one.
One.
and I would, in a future time, I would also say that we can propose the option of doing a bond, but that decision needs to be our taxpayers, and I would fully support that. If we were to do a bond to restore.
If we pass this, I agree. I think we need to, and I don't know if we need to make it an amendment or just need to make it I don't know, that the school district will look into doing everything we can to resurrect Washington and get it back to where it could be the best school that it could be. I know that it has the potential to be the building itself has its potential to be a great school. It's just going to take a lot of money that we don't have. And I would hope that we wouldn't close it and then walk away from it and just say, well, we don't, and I know we won't have the money to put a lot of money into it. And if nobody's in there, it'll just be a more of a, well, nothing's happening there. Let's not put too much money into it. I know that Mr. Cameron has got a path forward on doing some help, maybe looking at some help that we can get with that. And I hope that he can continue to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as a district that we need to continue to remember that we have that building and that we want to get it back into service someday. Like Ray said, that's the only school, it's the only elementary school in that area down there, you know, and it needs to be a school. But we need to do something with it.
So future discussions and much research would go into that decision, but I mean, I think that these comments are really, really good. Really good
What was your amendment?
Well, and I guess I don't know whether this is an amendment other than maybe a commitment by this board that we will take a closer look. Already it's been addressed that we've put aside in the SIP $1 million for that parking lot up at Highland. Those kids have been parking just fine on that gravel parking lot. You know, there's $1 million right there. I mean, have we really, that's what I'm saying, is that by making this decision tonight, I still want us to say we are not abandoning Washington, that they're, you know, in conjunction with this group that has connections and has the ability to, you know, shake the trees. Because I believe that there's, as we all believe, there's still growth happening in this community. And with the direction that it's growing, we will need that building as a school. And, you know, even as has been mentioned, the work that may be required would require closing the school. So why not make that effort now and a commitment by this board that we will at least look at this closer?
Right.
And see what there is, what wiggle room we have. What are some things that, you know, I
want to back you up, Heather, on that.
Thank
because
you.
I
I
really
would like to as well.
I hate to see a building sitting empty doing nothing, and that's been my concern all along. Is it's an asset to the district. What are we going to do with it? And I feel like I asked at the meeting on Friday if we really knew the structural issues that were happening, and they explained it would take some time and work to get in and do that. And I feel like if we go this route of saying we need to close Washington right now, that needs to be done. We need to be able to put together what exactly needs to happen to that building so we know if we can save it or if it is at a point where it's not worth repairing.
The 501c3 would be, I think, a really good avenue to pay for that, because it would cost a lot of money to do to get in and do that. We did that. We've done
the basic.
You know, going through, looking at what needs to happen. But when you really dig in, that costs a lot of money, and so that 501c3 would be a really great option.
Yeah,
to explore.
I would like to see that happen, and I know our district before has closed down Alameda, and then done substantial repairs, and then was able to reopen it when enrollment went back up. And I'm hopeful when 2 years, all the COVID babies show up, that we have a ton of kids and our kindergartens are overflowing. I'm hopeful of that, but looking at the numbers right now, I don't feel like I can base my decision off a hopeful projection.
Oh, and we can also look, like you said, we got $1 million set aside for the parking lot, and you know, maybe you're right, we could set that aside. The money we won't spend to keep both schools open, we could maybe set that aside with it when we get the numbers from the bids from Highland and see how much money is left over there. We can maybe look at appropriating a certain amount of that money to go to Washington. And if Mr. Cameron can come up with, you know, $50 million, then we can fix it right.
Write the check, Ryan.
That would be, that was set as a lofty goal.
It is a lofty goal,
commendable goal.
but
Very commendable.
I will be surprised, but what in that there wouldn't be a good amount of money that could come to us.
Yes, I love restoration projects.
If we can, if we can
I
get
love
on
our
that.
downtown. I love our city, and to restore things is amazing. Costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. More discussion?
No, I would just say I agree that, you know, $1 million for the parking lot could be better spent elsewhere. People have made comments like that. We have read all the comments, and we appreciate the comments. The school district belongs to the people. They pay all the bills, and we care what you think. And, you know, when it comes to, you know, just to say, for instance, artificial turf or tennis courts or a parking lot, I think that, you know, the schools take precedence. Of course, a lot of these decisions were made prior to, we inherited a lot of decisions that were made, but we have to deal with the hand we've been dealt. And if I can use a card analogy there. Yeah, no, I think, you know,
So-
we should reexamine some of that stuff.
And we can't discuss another
Okay.
topic that isn't on the agenda.
Sorry about that,
But we do
Maria.
have a motion and we have a second. So I will call for the vote. Jim? Do you want it? All in favor of option 1?
With
The
amend,
amendment.
with
With the
amendment one.
amended proposal? Aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Aye.
Or
Nay.
aye.
Was that a favor or opposed?
Nay. Say.
That motion passed.
Right.
Can we adjourn?
Pretty quiet now.
Do middle school now.
Oh, right, we've still got more. We've still got more.
I would entertain a motion with regard to middle school proposals. Is there a motion?
I move that the board approve the middle school amended proposal number 1.
The
Is there a
amended one?
second?
Did you see the amended one?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. I would entertain a motion with regard to the high school proposals. Is there a motion?
I move that we,
Yeah, I move that we adopt
There you
high
go.
school option A1 as was presented to us.
Is there a second?
Is there an,
That one's the same as last time.
oh, it is the same.
Yeah, because that
A1.
one wasn't impacted by
A1,
elementary.
okay.
A1. There's no
Second.
change. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed.
Did I get everybody's vote?
Give me an aye.
Yeah.
everybody.
I didn't say
I'm
anything.
sorry.
I didn't, I'm not loud.
I thought I
You went
heard
really
everybody. Sorry about that. The next topic on the agenda is the business operations, which will be presented by Jonathan Balls. He will report on the following: Highland High School rebuild update and the PV Tech update.
Okay, board, just a quick update on the Highland High School rebuild. So we have been out to bid there's actually 37 different bid packages that are going out. We've been out to bid for about 2 weeks. Yesterday, we had with no learners at Highland, we were able to get into that building. We had a bid walkthrough yesterday at Highland where we had over 40 individuals come to look at that. It wasn't a mandatory walkthrough, but we are very encouraged with that attendance there. As a reminder, the bids are due back on February 12th. So at 2:30 p.m., we'll actually spend a few hours here at the board, in the boardroom, and open those bids. Our general contractor, Bateman Hall, has asked that we give them about 2 weeks to review all the bids, make sure that everyone has their public works license. You know, all of these contractors, make sure they understand the scope of those packages. We're looking at probably maybe the first week of March. We'll have a special meeting for Highland that we would accept these bids, and then accept the contract with Bateman Hall that would set that guaranteed maximum price that we were kind of talking about, and that would give us the dollar amount there for Highland, and then see what's remaining from our school modernization funds. And so we would also, what?
So do we just accept the one bid from Bateman Hall, and he'll deal with the rest of the bids?
Yes, that is, as a reminder, it was a year ago in the summer, that we chose our architect and we chose our general contractor. And so we're receiving all these bids through Bateman Hall, but it will be on our shoulders, but the contracts will be held with Bateman Hall.
Okay.
As a reminder, we've set that percentage that they receive.
What's it called
for
to choose Bateman Hall as opposed to the other way?
We use the process called CMGC.
That's right.
Yeah, construction manager, general contractor. And they've been very valuable to make sure that we don't get over-engineered or over-architect drawings to make sure we can definitely stay in the budget.
Great.
And I actually have some very good news regarding the timeline. As you know, we're approaching the second year, and we've told the public that again we'll be in their start of school in 2027. However, with talking with Bateman Hall, and they've sent out a bid schedule, we're fairly confident that Bateman Hall, that we'll be able to get into the new classrooms, the gymnasium, the commons, and the kitchen area by January of 27.
Wow. That is so
So,
awesome.
yeah, so obviously there's a lot of work that has to be done.
There's a lot of kids that have
And we'll
to go out
talk
of
in a
school.
in a year to see there. But they're fairly confident, and we've, again, we even got our building permits such that could be done. So then the auditorium, the music classrooms there to the north, that would be basically July of 27. So then we'd still
The rest
go in
of it.
there. But that is the timeline that was actually communicated to all the subcontractors. And so they're pretty confident that they can make that happen. So just wanted to share that good news. We'll kind of publicize that as well. That's our goal. And to do that would be great, obviously, for that graduating class of 27 to get into a new high school, have some entire school events, in a new gymnasium, and that spring of 27. So
Such good news.
So that's an update for you there, and we'll have more in next month there. Madam Chair, if I may continue with the PV Tech update. Again, not too much there. We're just finishing up just a few small details. Again, as Ms. Fisher mentioned, we're looking towards May 1st for an open house. So really, we're buying all the equipment. The welding shop is fairly well stocked with boost and gas line. It's very impressive. What did I say? Forgive me, it's a long night.
It sounded like booze. So what
you
is
got
it stocked with?
Instead of booths.
Booths, forgive me.
Sorry.
The welding booths.
Welding booths.
It's been a long night.
Sorry about that. Welding bays. And we'll buy some, Ms. Nafs is buying some, the construction equipment and machinery and so forth, and getting the new section of PV Tech up to speed, as you'd mentioned, Mr. Facer, about getting that fully functional. So we're excited about that. And just wrapping up a few details. So.
Right. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is Superintendent's report, which will be presented by Dr. Howell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for sake of time, I'll let you review the board calendar on your own. Taking a look at that second item, it's the ISBA request to study CTE. You'll recall that our board submitted a proposal to a resolution to ISBA in regard to CTE funding, and taking a look at that outside of the traditional funding formula. And so rather than approach it head-on, Quinn Perry, who is the Legislative Services Director with ISBA, suggested that we look at going through the JLOC Committee, which is the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee. And it's a bipartisan group, and she felt that this would be a better approach. It will take a little bit longer. She said it could be up to a year. But nonetheless, they will request from an Office of Performance Evaluation of that group to go through legislative services and look at CTE more broadly, even in terms of recruiting, retention, salaries, and then looking at this pay structure maybe a little bit differently. And as you look at that letter, right now there are guidelines set up by the Career Technical Education Department of the State Department that say you can't use money for salaries. So that's where we're going to ask them to focus on that and just take a look at it. Again, knowing that by design, CTE classes are set up to be smaller because it's a work experience setting. And again, by way of materials and safety, it's important that they take a look at that. So we thought that too was the best approach. And so we have co-authored a letter, myself and Quinn. Madam Chair received some information on those letters and some various updates. And so I just wanted to let the board see that letter that was going to be forwarded to
Are
them.
any of our legislators?
Yes.
J. Locke is Ruckey?
Yes, Senator Ruckey
Okay.
is part of that group. And we had him and also Representative Garner on the phone, Zoom meeting. And so we are going to have both houses covered and both sides of the aisle covered. And I think once we get that information back, it'll move swiftly through the process. But it will take a little bit longer. And so I just wanted to remind the board that we are moving forward. Third item for me is a revision to policy 2201, and this is just a change in the business order to allow awards and recognitions reports prior to receiving public comment. As we saw tonight, it allows for our student representatives and those recognitions to happen first, and then those families could be, and students could be excused to get back to their various things outside of maybe the other operations of the district. So that's up for action tonight on second reading.
I would entertain a motion to hear policy 2201 on second reading for adoption as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear policy 2201, meetings of the board on second reading for adoption as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. If there's nothing else,
There is something, so, and maybe this is a question for Renee. So we talked about committees earlier. If I wanted to propose an ad hoc committee, is that a separate for another board meeting? Because even though we talked about committees here,
Yes, you could propose it for a future discussion. I'm sorry if I got.
got turned off. So for now?
It timed
or
out.
for later?
No, you can propose that for now, but also I would just.
put on the agenda
yeah.
for
Put it on
a
the
future
agenda.
agenda.
So I would like to propose an ad hoc committee surrounding Washington and involve the Washington Advocate Group. And I would like to participate on that committee.
So we can ask for that to be on, I'll put on a future agenda.
For a work
So,
session.
Okay.
is there any other item, is there any other discussion?
I think that's a great idea.
That concludes this meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Okay, all in favor?